This is Matt Hurt at Obsessive Viewer on Twitter.
This is Tiny at Obsessive Tiny on Letterboxd.
This is Mike, and you can find me at I am Mike White on Twitter.
And this is ObsessiveViewer.com's The Obsessive Viewer Podcast. Hello and Happy New Year, and welcome to The Obsessive Viewer. We're a movie and TV podcast that covers a specific topic, be it genre, trope, movie, or show each episode. You can find more of our work at ObsessiveViewer.com. You can also like us on Facebook at Facebook.com/TheObsessiveViewer, and you can support us on Patreon at Patreon.com/ObsessiveViewer at the minimum rate of $1 per month for an exclusive RSS feed with content recorded specifically for Patreon supporters. And at the $2 level, you also get TV and book reviews and reactions. I'm doing a whole series on Stephen King's short fiction collections this year on there for the $2 level. January is all about Night Shift. And for $5, you get all of that plus commentary tracks, including commentary tracks for the Scream franchise, for Dr. Sleep, The Shining, for a bunch of stuff, Throne of Blood, a bunch of movies and everything. I think there's like 25 commentary tracks on there now. And then $10 gets you all of that plus early access to content. So, rambling through that, I'm your host, Matt Hurt, and with me today are the OG co-hosts of The Obsessive Viewer, Mr. Tiny and Mr. Mike White. How are you doing this fine 2022 evening, you gentlemen?
Awesome.
I'm great.
Nice.
This feels like an event. This always feels like, I mean, the three of us don't get together to record as often as maybe we would like. Right. And also just talking about, kind of in a way like the foundation of this podcast, like why we do this. It's a culmination of all that every year. And so I'm stoked. I've been excited for this all week.
Oh, yeah. Same here. And we're actually doing it at a relatively early, well, for us, time frame for us in the year. So that's great. Tiny, how are you feeling about the year in review episode?
Good, man. Better than last year.
Oh, yeah, me too. Yeah.
Right.
Just better movies all around for sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's so as Mike mentioned, this is our year in review episode. We do it every year. Basically starting with early 2014, we did a year in review episode for 2013. The podcast started in June of 2013. And we've done it every year since. It's the big episode that we do each year. It's like Mike said, the culmination of a year's worth of movie viewing, and it's a lot of fun. I love that this is a tradition that we do. Like, I really, really just adore that it's something that we can look forward to, and something that we can go back and hear us talk about over nearly a decade now. That is just incredible. So thank you guys for putting up with me for this long.
For sure. And I think another thing that's kind of special about it is not just is it the ending point or the finish line of our year and kind of this podcast every year. It's almost in a way a season finale. It also kind of frames our movie watching years. I mean, the three of us start talking about goals and when we see one that is like a 5-star movie or a 4.5-star movie, we already are making predictions in January. Hey, I can't imagine this not being on my top 10. So, in certain ways, we build this episode starting January 1st.
Yeah, and this is the rare year where we have a movie in January that's like, oh, this could be, something.
Oh, for sure.
Meaning Scream in a couple of days. Holy crap. Yeah. Oh, that's exciting.
Can't wait for that. We'll talk about that a little bit.
Oh,
for
yeah.
sure.
Oh, yeah. So the way that we do these episodes we basically have our stats that we're going to run down. We used to do this manually. We used to compile our stats, compile our viewing stats, our statistics, any other way that you can say stats, and our movie viewing manually. But thankfully, a few years ago, we all joined Letterboxd, which I just want to just say right up front, letterboxd.com, amazing website, amazing social media site for movie watching. It's, in my opinion, it is one of the one of the few remaining like corners of the internet that isn't spoiled by horrible discourse. It is like, I don't know. It's just a beautiful website, and it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a really good way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah. So Letterboxd, since I'm a patron on Letterboxd, just to flex a little bit. But if you have a pro membership, you get access to stats that you can track throughout the entire year. It is very robust, very clean user interface. It's amazing. And that's what we're going to be using predominantly throughout our stat tracking in this episode, where we're going to be talking about it. So if this is your first time listening, just keep in mind, check out Letterboxd if you haven't yet. Also, follow us on Letterboxd. I'm Matt at Obsessive Viewer. Tiny is at Obsessive Tiny, and Mike is at I am Mike White on Letterboxd. So so should we get rolling, guys?
Let's roll, bro.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So first, I just want to ask, how was everyone's, and this is probably going to be a loaded question, how was everyone's 2021 in comparison to any other year we've done this?
Tiny, do you want to start, or do you want me to go first?
You can go ahead, Mike.
Okay. I would my 2021 I would say was worse than 2020. Like, are you talking about just life and in general, or just in movie?
General mood, general. Okay, yeah.
Because it's true for the amount of movies I watched, but we'll get to that in a second. So just general mood. I'm such an introvert and a homebody that being in actual quarantine as many times as I was in 2020 for various reasons, testing positive, virtual school, canceled school, all the different reasons we stayed home. I found ways to make the best of it. And I've said it before on the podcast, so I don't mean any disrespect to people who really struggled through that year. I'm fully aware of that. It was very difficult and challenging for everybody. And I know that, we lost people and people suffered serious illnesses. So I don't mean to make light of it, but on a personal level, I was able to kind of accomplish some goals where, like, you stick a pin in it for a rainy day and say, if I'm ever home for an extended period of time, I could do these things. And I did. So that felt really good. What has been difficult about 2021 is continuing to live through this pandemic, but with the pretense that things are back to, and I'm doing some serious air quotes here, back to normal. Yeah. Like, we all just kind of collectively agreed to stick a pin in normal things last year and just deal with the pandemic. But now we have to deal with life again on top of the pandemic. Yeah. So I don't have that free time to kind of soothe as a salve on that which wounds me every day. So that has been a bit of a challenge. On a positive note, my family is happy. They're healthy. My son started kindergarten this year and he's thriving. I just was told today that my 3-year-old son at his daycare, she said, I wish we could clone Howie, because he's a perfect child. So that felt really good.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. She said he is sweet and empathetic, and all the kids want to play with him. So that felt really good.
Oh, that's awesome.
That was a cool day.
Nice.
And then my band, which I won't talk about too much, but we released an album this year. We funded it on Kickstarter. That was a positive thing. So, I don't know that I've broken even in 2021.
Sure.
But I think there are things that I can do to make 2022 a better year, just in my head, just in preparation. Yeah. Sorry for the long-winded answer.
Oh, no, absolutely. Absolutely not. You're good.
Well-winded answer.
Yes. Well, nice. Well, and just for the listeners, where can we find all of your music online?
Yeah, so my band is As Good As It Gets, and it's everywhere. The easiest, the hub is just asgoodasitgetsmusic.com, and that will take you to the Spotify, the Bandcamp. It will take you to our Facebook. We have a YouTube channel, all kinds of stuff. This year should be really exciting. We are releasing every 6 weeks or so, starting on February 18th, singles that were the Song Shop songs that was part of our Kickstarter that we did last year. So people purchased songs to write with us last year. And so we're releasing those as singles this year. And the first one comes out February 18th. next month. So we're
That
pretty excited
is
about
so
that.
awesome.
Sweet.
I'm very excited for that. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that'll be good.
Cool.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, Tiny, your 2021.
Well, I'm going to echo a lot of what Mike said. I'm kind of glad you said that, Mike, because misery loves company. Yeah, my
For sure.
Yeah, my 2021 was worse than 2020 as well. The positive, professionally, it was a great year. I got like a big raise and kind of a promotion, and
Congrats.
job's going fantastic. I'm really loving my career. So that's the positive, but just so many negatives this year. So many, and COVID was only a small part of it. That I lost my last two grandparents this year within 6 months of each other, my grandmothers. And then during that time, my wife and I lost a pregnancy, and that was the worst thing ever. And, just a terrible year all around. But, it kind of, and then at the end of the year, most of my family got COVID. So that was all a bummer. It was just a bummer all around for the most part. But I was still pretty positive throughout a lot of it. And, there's so much good art and content out there and so many good services for us to enjoy those things that it's easy to distract ourselves in a good way. I mean, not in a bad way. There's the golden age of television and all these services where we can consume all these things. It's refreshing that I look forward to a day at home where I can just watch stuff and forget about life for a while, as Billy Joel said. So yeah, I mean, it was a bad year, but I don't feel bad. I don't. Nice. I'm not. I'm still pretty positive, and it was a good year for movies, which we're going to talk about today. So at least there's that. Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, it doesn't sound like you're dwelling on it, which is healthy and impressive.
Yeah. That's the good angle of it.
Right. I don't mean to be a downer. I'm not trying to say that, but just that's kind of how last year was. But I'm positive.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Mateo.
My year was pretty mixed, honestly. I'm not gonna say that it was bad. I'm not gonna say it was bad. It was bookended by some pretty heavy mental illness issues, but I'm okay. And I'm thankful that I have a good support system and everything. But yeah, other than that, it's frustrating that we are 2 years into a pandemic and there are still people who don't understand that or don't care about that. My company is going to be following the mandate for vaccination and everything. And like a little part of me is just like tickled by that because I'm like, okay, I won't mince words, all of the a-holes that are resistant to the idea of, doing the bare minimum for free to, put an end to it, are going to have a rough time having to be tested every week because of their freedoms. But so it hasn't been as frustrating as it was last year because last year was an election year. The entire world was upside down and crazy and insane. But 2021 has been pretty good. Movie theaters are back. I feel comfortable being in a movie theater, which is great. That was a very, very big downer for me in 2020 was that I couldn't do that. That was like that's like an emotional thing that I do. Like that's something that I needed. So I'm glad that movie theaters are back. I'm glad that movies are back for the most part, and that that even though the world is still all messed up and out of whack, we are all still here, all still healthy, and all ready to do this for another year, and a year after that, and after that, and after that. So, yeah.
Well put, and kind of to Tiny's point, I think. If we can lift it up here at the end, I think we all struggled in our own ways through this year. I think a lot of people struggled through this year, but we really continued to do our favorite hobby. Yeah. And I think that's another thing that's really special about this podcast. And when the three of us can do this together is we look forward to this and we could do this at the end of the year. And, we kind of struggle through it together and then we get to enjoy this together at the end here.
Absolutely. And also, I should say, I also got into a relationship at the end of the year. So, pretty good year.
Congrats.
Yeah. And she also got a new cat. So, yeah. Shout out to Clarence.
Oh boy. Boy.
Oh yeah.
Attaboy, Clarence.
Attaboy,
Look
Clarence.
out now.
Yeah. Clarence, the old building and loan. Okay, so anyway. So here we are. 2021 year in review. We have an itinerary. We're going to go through our stats. We're going to go through some their honorable mentions. I'm going to save that for a different episode that I'm doing. And then just all of our and then our top 10s and everything. So we've got a packed show. Do we have anything else to address before we get into viewing stats?
No, let's do it.
Let's get to it, man.
Nice. All right. So we are going to start with our viewing stats for 2021. The way that we have done this over the years is Mike goes first since he is an irregular co-host. And then we'll go Tiny and then me. So Mike, why don't you hit us with your viewing stats for the year 2021?
Okay, in 2016, I watched 148 movies. In 17, I watched 134. In 18, 130. And then in 19, I watched 193 movies. Last year, I watched 283 movies, my highest of all time. And this year, my lowest perhaps of all time, at least since I've been keeping track, and I've been keeping track since about 2008. 113 movies, and we'll talk about the top 10, which is a really good top 10. So I'm not all that upset. I went so hard on movies in 2020 that I kind of intentionally watched fewer this year. I spent my time actually reading books and working on music and stuff like that. So 113 films watched, which is an average of 9.4 per month, which is 2.2 per week. Which sounds about right. I see one every Thursday on movie night, and I try to generally watch one on Tuesday nights by myself. If not that, then I'll sneak one in over the weekend, or I'll watch one with my wife on a Friday or something like that. My first time watches of the year, which is to say like a movie I've never seen before, I watched it this year. That was 90 movies, which is 80% of all the movies I watched, which is
nice.
I don't know. That's
pretty good.
I don't know if I don't know that I want to say I'm surprised or what. This year for Shocktober, I decided to watch a lot of movies I'd never seen before. So usually those numbers are padded by like my favorite ones. So I watch a lot of new movies. I like to check things off lists, things that I've never seen before. In terms of rewatches, so things that I had seen before, that's only 23, which is 20%. Theater viewings was back up.
Nice.
Last year I saw 13 because of COVID. We saw a couple and then in March, and then just stopped seeing movies for a whole year. This year I saw 40 movies in theaters, including Spider-Man Far From Home, or No Way Home, excuse me. No Way Home. I saw that twice in theaters. Movies that I watched in 2021 that were released in 2021 is 49, which is about 43% of all the movies that I watched, which comes to about 200.2 hours of total movie watching for the year, which is less than half of what I watched last year, 491 last year. My highest, which is just true every single year, is horror movies. Second highest is thriller, and they kind of tag horror movies as thrillers as well. I watch a lot of horror movies. Shocktober is my favorite time of year, and on Tuesdays I watch horror movies. The director I watched the most is Lee Janiak, and that's only because I watched all three of the Fear Street movies. I didn't really do any director deep dives this year or anything like that, but fun nonetheless. The highest rated movie I watched was Pulp Fiction. The most obscure was Shifter.
Yeah.
And then the lowest scoring movie average I watched this year was The Addams Family 2, which I watched with my kids. So
Nice.
decent year overall.
Yeah.
My most common moving watching day was on Thursday, which makes sense because that's when I see movie night.
Yeah.
A low year, but it's the quality, not the quantity, I think.
Nice. And so, if you don't mind, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. How many theater viewings did you have?
This year I had 40.
That is awesome.
That's really good. Yeah.
Especially the
Feels
bounce
good.
back from COVID. Yeah. And I also want to mention, I am just so, commented this on your Letterboxd. I am so just thrilled that you guys hit movie night number 500 and you hit it with Spider-Man No Way Home.
Spider-Man.
That's so cool.
That is amazing.
Not only was it Spider-Man, which is enough to be excited about in the first place, but it was the end of our semester.
Oh,
it
nice.
was the end of the year. It was like it was total wrap up and good vibes. 500 movies. Yeah. So we got to see 500 on our movie nights. That was a really special thing that I guess that I didn't mention in the stats, but 40 movies in theaters. I feel really good about that. When we started going back in March, when we felt more comfortable about theaters, it was nonstop, one a week and then a random here and there.
Yeah. Do you have any memorable movie theater experiences aside from Spider-Man?
Well, aside from Spider-Man, sure. I mean, Spider-Man was the most memorable, and I'm going to talk about that quite a bit later. Oh, yeah. We got to see Carrie in the screening of Carrie. Awesome. Which was really fun. We saw a screening of Evil Dead, which was really fun. The other two that I'll mention, I saw Addams Family with just my two sons. Like my wife was out of town doing something, and it was the first time I had taken the boys by myself to a movie, and it was fun. Wow. We had way too much candy, popcorn, sodas, the whole thing. And they kind of liked the movie a little, but just being there with them was really fun. And then the other one, House of Gucci, I actually got in a car accident on the drive to House of Gucci. I got rear-ended. We were, turning right, and I yielded, and the person behind me did not yield. So ran into me. We had to kind of pull into the parking lot. All the while I'm checking my watch thinking, we got a movie to see here in about 25 minutes. And this is our 499th movie. So I am not missing this movie. Yeah. Because next week is Spider-Man. So got the information, nobody was hurt. She took the blame. So we didn't call the cops, just exchanged the information. And I was like, all right, if you're good, I got your information. I'm good. We got a movie to catch. See ya. So we went with my busted up vehicle. Like the trunk wouldn't close. So it was just dinging the whole drive home, the whole bit. Like I was also sick. Like I took the next day off of work. It was just kind of rough, but I was like, I mean, it was like The Revenant. I'm trying to think of a better movie example, but I was just like, I am going to this thing if I have to crawl. Like, it was 11/22/63. Like time was obdurate. It was like keeping me from seeing my 499th movie. Nonetheless, I did. The movie is entirely forgettable.
Oh,
but,
yeah. I'm picturing Miles Teller at the end of Whiplash.
Yes, that's better. Yeah, very good. Yeah, I'm bleeding. Yeah, I didn't want to go to the hospital to get a neck brace, so I just have my jacket around my neck.
Wow.
Oh, that's great. Well, I'm glad you're okay and everything.
Thanks. Yeah.
Any more on your stats, Mike, or shall we move on to Mr. Tiny?
No, I think that's good. Yeah.
Alrighty, Tiny, hit us with your stats.
All right. I have been hovering around the 100 movies a year mark, 110, give or take, 95, somewhere in there. So I hit a new low this year. I only had 83.
Oh, wow.
Which is really low.
That is low. Yeah.
But,
okay. No problem.
Yeah. And so the past 3 or 4 years, I've been kind of a downer when it comes to my stats on these episodes. But this year, it's funny. I hit a new low, but I don't feel down about it. It's weird. And I think the reason is it's kind of a quality over quantity type situation. Yeah. Because last year I watched 110, but I had like very little enthusiasm for my top 10 list. So it's like I watched more movies, but like I wasn't real excited about my top 10. I mean, I had Tenet on it, for Christ's sake. Which is not a bad movie, but whatever. Anyways, so this year it's kind of different because I'm not bummed about the number 83 because I'm really enthusiastic about my top 10, and I saw some great movies this year. And so it's kind of like the whole personal thing where the year was kind of crappy, but I'm just not down about it. I'm not depressed about it. I took my time to process that stuff, and we're feeling better now, and it's all good now. So it's low number, but again, quality over quantity. So I'm okay with it.
Nice.
It's about 166 hours of movie viewing. Let's see, about 7 per month, 1.5 a week. And a number that's not too bad was the 2021 releases. Let's see, 54 out of 83 were 2021 releases. So that's
really good.
That's not bad. I mean, I don't mind that. And then 72%, so 60 out of 83 were new movies, new watches, which Mike, yours was 80%, so 72%. I'm happy with that. So
yeah, for sure.
So that's all pretty good. Most watched actor was J.K. Simmons, which is kind of funny. Yeah. And then we watched all the Matrix movies. So my number one director was Lana Wachowski. Four movies from her. Nice. Number one genre was drama, which is pretty standard. I think that's always my number one. I saw a number. This number was a little better than I thought it was going to be. I saw 7 movies in the theater, which is pretty par for me. I think the most I've ever had is like 22, maybe something like that. 23,
something like that. I think
it's in the 20s. Yeah. I'm nowhere near your guys' kind of levels, and one time in my life I'd love to do 52 in a year. I will do it someday, but I'm okay with 7 given how low my overall number was, and pandemic and all that jazz. I'm okay with 7, and also I had some good experiences in the theater this year. Dune at the State Museum. Oh my God, that was amazing.
Largest screen in the state.
Yeah.
IMAX.
Oh wow, that's cool.
So amazing.
Massive.
I was listening to. What was it? Oh, I was listening to Matt, your episode with Fecus where you talked about Spider-Man.
Oh yeah.
And you mentioned when we went to Dune.
Yes.
The guy was like, there were people like, we were towards the end of an aisle and people were shuffling past us, and one guy was like, excuse me, happy Dune Day. And that felt great because I was like, that's how I felt. I was like, it's Dune Day. I've been waiting for this movie for like 3 years.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited for it. And it's like I love this movie and this story and the book and everything. So just seeing all that on the screen was just amazing. And it packed theater.
Yeah.
The sound, the screen, that was an awesome experience. And then Spider-Man, No Way Home was really cool just because of all the nostalgia and all that stuff. And we had a pretty good crowd too, people who were involved and laughing at all the right spots. And it was a fun, interactive thing. So yeah, it was a low number, but a good year. Again, I'm pretty positive on it despite the low number. Yeah.
Nice.
Awesome.
What was your first movie back after... Was it Mortal Kombat with me?
Mortal Kombat.
Okay.
That was it.
Mike, what was your first one back?
Oh, shoot. The first one back. I would have to look.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Oh, you're good. You're good. Tiny, resume stats?
I don't think I have anything else really.
Okay.
That's kind of the big stuff.
Day of the week?
Day of the week was actually Sunday.
Oh, nice.
Which kind of surprised me. And I watched 13 movies on Tuesday. I have no idea what Tuesdays I watched movies.
Yeah.
That's weird. I don't know where those came from.
Interesting.
That kind of jumped out at me. But yeah, it also December was my biggest month.
Nice.
Because I made a big push towards the end. I watched like what was that? It doesn't say.
Oh,
I thought I would say the actual number, but yeah, I mean, if you like look at my chart, it's kind of like a COVID chart because at the end it's just spiking up at the end there. But it was fun. It was a really fun, like, not a marathon, but it was just like a, it was just like a fun push at the end.
Yeah, a nice focus on something.
A focus, yeah, that's a good way to put it, yeah.
And actors, directors.
Yeah, most watched actor was J.K. Simmons. Robert Downey Jr. was up there too, and then all the big people from The Matrix, because we watched the original trilogy and the new one. Let's see, what was there was something. Did
you already say director and actor?
I did.
Did you? Oh, I'm sorry.
Just really quickly and briefly, yeah. So yeah, that's about it.
Sweet.
My number one writer, Stephen King.
Oh, nice.
Of course.
Check out Tower Junkies.
Shocking.
Yeah. Awesome.
This is gonna blow your mind, guys. But did you know that Godzilla vs. Kong came out in 2021?
It did.
Yeah.
Oh, so I remember. That was our first one back.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And I would never have guessed that came out this year.
Yeah, it came and went. Yeah. I did have.
It won't be on my top 10. I'll say that.
Oh yeah.
Why not?
I will say I did have a very nice interview with Eminem on our episode. I'm sorry.
What?
On the episode I did that stupid.
Oh shit!
Cutting together with Eminem.
Right.
Good stuff. Check that out in our episode. Okay, should I go into my stats?
Please do.
All right, so I'm going to preface this by saying that, going back and listening to the previous, I got up to 2019. I didn't get to listen to last year's year in review episode, but it's funny that I feel like in years past, we have collectively given ourselves a hard time anytime we have low numbers and low viewing. And I don't know what it was, but I just kind of I did not feel like toward the end of the year or at any point in the year, I did not feel like, oh, I need to make sure that I get my numbers up. I need to make sure that I watch as many movies as I can and everything. I had that reason I wanted to do that for other reasons, but not because that number is staring me in the face. And I kind of feel like that's healthy.
Right.
And that's so healthy. Yeah. I mean, I felt the same thing. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. I love the idea of just having a natural record of just how much you watch in a year and everything. And I think maybe that's a perspective that I've gained after the start of the pandemic and everything. And it's kind of making it a little bit more interesting as a data point in terms of how much, instead of to borrow a hashtag from, I think, 2019, Mike, to not make it into hashtag not a competition.
Of course.
But having said that, and I'm not saying this to gloat or anything, but my total viewings were 180, which I'm happy with. That is, in 2020, I had 283, like Mike. So that is a drop of 64%, which I'm fine with. First viewings I had were 115 of those 180. So that's 63.9% of my total. And that is down 64%. I think that's right. 64% from 2020's 179 first viewings. Rewatches in 2021 are 65, which is 36.1% of my total, and down 63% from 2020's 104 rewatches. And theater viewings. I have no idea. I don't know how many theater viewings I had in 2020. I think it was 11. I tried to find it, but I couldn't. I think it's indicative of just how beaten by 2020 I was, because I had postponed recording our year in review. I went in my notes app today to find the notes for the 2020 year in review episode, and half of it's filled out. I didn't have my theater count or anything, so because I think I just used Letterboxd when we recorded. So I think that in 2020 I had 11, but in 2021 I had 28, which I'm very happy with. It's nice to be back in the movie theater. I have tickets for Scream. I'm going to see the 355 tomorrow for some reason. And then I'm seeing Scream again on Friday.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I'm just super happy with that. And 3 memorable / special theater viewings that I had, I'll run them off real quick. One was Voyagers on April 19th. Absolutely dreadful, at best, not memorable in the slightest movie. It's basically Lord of the Flies in space with all the subtext of a sledgehammer in the face, or all the subtlety of it. But it was my first movie back after COVID, after they reopened, after I became vaccinated and everything.
Yeah.
And like I had timed that. I was like, I got the vaccine 2 weeks after that, like 2 weeks to the day when I'm officially like fully vaccinated. I'm in the theater with a mask seeing Voyagers, and it just felt so freeing to me. So nice. So yeah, but Voyagers is trash. So number 2 is a very nice a movie that I'm going to be talking about later here in a bit, but P.T. Anderson's Licorice Pizza. I got to see that on December 7th at a screening with a bunch of colleagues from the IFGA. And the reason that that's pretty special to me is that it was probably the biggest turnout of IFGA members in a theater screening in a while.
Nice.
And in 2020, I had to miss the annual meeting because I had COVID. And we even did that virtually. And then this year on like the 15th, we did that virtually as well over Zoom. And so it was just nice to be like in a theater with a bunch of people that I respect and I'm friends with the IFGA. And it was a really nice kind of cathartic kind of theater experience. And then the third one is December 16th, Spider-Man No Way Home. Listen to my episode with Fecus about it. That was one of the first times I felt like, okay, things are back to normal almost, which is probably a dangerous thing to think. But in terms of the survivability of theaters, I felt more comfortable about the future of the movie theater experience than I have over the last 2 years. So that was just an incredible experience.
It's interesting because I felt that in a way too. And I mean, Spider-Man is obviously awesome. And, but with, Omicron surging the way it's surging and people, like studios pushing January movies out of January, it feels a little premature to call theaters back. Like I'm a little worried again, honestly.
Yeah, that's true. I think more, if I can not amend it, but if I can kind of clarify it a little bit, it felt like the movie theater experience wasn't dead. I'll say that.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
that's
like,
fair.
because we've had this, like, all of 2020, VOD, movie theaters gone for indefinitely and everything. And then 2021, we had Warner Brothers and HBO Max doing day and date theater and HBO Max stuff. We had Peacock or Paramount Plus, and we had all of these, like, day and date theater things. And so to be in a movie theater in a packed house for Spider-Man No Way Home, a movie that is only in theaters, and have it be that monumental, like, crowd-pleasing experience where the theater is, like, as invested in it as they were in Endgame.
For sure.
Yeah, and to add to that, the fact that we've also had that was like the 4th MCU movie in theaters this year in 2021.
Yeah. And
like, I did not experience that with any of those, except for Spider-Man. So I just think that it was a really special experience. Some more Letterboxd stats. The 180 movies I saw totaled 342.6 hours. I had a very, like, it's so interesting to see my chart for films by week, because it's like there's a pattern. It's like I'm a low couple of weeks, a big spike for a few weeks, and then another couple low weeks, and then spike and everything, and then a massive one starting in like late November, because that's crunch time. I have to watch a lot of movies for the IFGA voting and everything. So that's kind of my life now. And I love it dearly. I absolutely adore it. I did not go more than 2 weeks without seeing a movie. I only saw, like, there were only 6 weeks out of the 52 weeks that I did not watch a movie. And my averages per month were 15, and average per week was 3.5. And my day, like, I was really excited about this because there is a 2-way tie for biggest day, and that's Wednesday and Sunday with 29 movies. But every other month or every other day is like 24, 25, 28. except for Thursday, which I had 17. So it's just an interesting, like almost even graph there.
A decent spread.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. My top genres were drama with 40 something, 68, sorry. And then tied for 2 were thriller and comedy with 45 each. And then number 3 with 42 movies was horror, which I was surprised about.
Nice.
Because I've fallen off of horror for a little bit. Did I already say 2021 releases? I don't think so.
Not yet, no.
So 2021 releases, I watched 87, which I'm happy with. And then I'm switching back here. And then okay. So a stat that you guys didn't talk about, and I'll ask you guys after I say mine, is first and last. I've made kind of a conscious effort in years past to kind of have like a kind of themed first and last movie. Last year, or the couple of years ago, I didn't really, that didn't really work out. But like I don't know. Yeah, because in 2019, I watched Blade Runner for the first movie of the year, and then I wanted to watch Blade Runner 2049 to round it out, but then I ended up not. But anyway, my first film of 2021 was Superbad, which I recorded a commentary for Patreon for the $5 level, and the last movie was Booksmart. So I thought that was a nice way to kind of bookend it.
Nice.
Since they're so similar. And then top actors were Willem Dafoe with 8 movies, J.K. Simmons with 8 movies, Benedict Wong with 7, Chris Evans with 6. There's a 3-way tie for 6 films each. So Chris Evans, Samuel L. Jackson, and Jamie Lee Curtis, I each watched 6. And then for the second year in a row, and I will say it is going to be a third year in a row next year if I do the thing that I'm planning on doing. But most watched director was Akira Kurosawa with 5 movies. One of them I recorded a Patreon commentary for. Then second, tied for second was Wes Craven with 4 movies, the Scream movies. Sure. And Lana Wachowski with 4 movies, which I watched the Matrix movies. As well. And I think that's about it for my stats. Yeah, pretty good year. I'm happy with it. I will say I am off to a very, very big start in 2022. Not the hashtag not a competition, but I'm really feeling like it's an interesting kind of cool down time for me, where like usually it's like, okay, I'm burnt out from watching movies and everything, but now it's like I've got like my end of year commitments done, so I kind of want to watch movies either that are familiar to me or are something that's a blind spot to me, but I don't want, like, that's a blind spot to me that I won't have any commitment to like write about or podcast about. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Good.
So I've been doing that. And I also made a Letterboxd list of movies that I own that I haven't seen yet, which we'll probably talk about later if we remember.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hefty.
That's a scary list. Yeah.
It is. But those are my stats for 2021. All right, so we have gone through our stats and everything. So did you guys want to talk briefly about movies that we missed in 2021 that we think may have had a shot at our top 10s, or any of them that we didn't get to that we wish we would have seen before right now, this moment?
That feels like a good place to start. Yeah, and I'll start. I missed kind of some of the obvious ones. I didn't get a chance to see Don't Look Up on Netflix. Come On is not one that I was super familiar with, but you guys raved about it, and I was not able to catch that one. That one like didn't even come to theaters nearby me, so I wasn't able to see that. Power of the Dog, I just did not prioritize, but I wanted to see that. Last Night in Soho kind of got some pretty strong mixed reviews, but it was on a lot of the horror movie, like top horror movies of the year lists that I saw. So I felt a little bit like I missed out on that. Same with the Slumber Party Massacre remake. I didn't get to check that one out. And I guess it's pronounced Titan or Titane.
Yeah, Titan.
Yeah. I'm actually not like looking at it. It doesn't particularly interest me all that much. But it's on so many end of the year lists that I feel like I should have seen it. So those are pretty much the big ones that I didn't get to see.
Yeah, I will say this. Don't Look Up, don't bother.
Oh, really? Okay.
I'm curious. I am curious what you think of it. And Tiny, I know you recently saw it, but I was proud of my Letterboxd review of it, but I'll just really briefly, and then we can go to Tiny's. I'm sorry. But I said on Letterboxd for Don't Look Up, the new Adam McKay movie, I said, this is a stupid movie made by a stupid person who thinks he's making a smart movie that will outsmart stupid people.
Wow.
It is like
harsh words.
Yeah, it is. Here's the thing. It is so up its ass and condescending about its viewpoint that I'm just like, I agree with what they're saying, but I'm like, I think it's so condescending that I'm like, I can't.
It is in no way clever at all.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Very surface level.
Nothing about it is smart.
No.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But I kind of liked it a little bit, honestly,
that's fine.
but it was not. I'm very critical of it.
Yeah. Any others that you missed, Mike? Or
no, those are kind of the big ones.
Okay.
I mean, I missed quite a few, but not a whole lot to talk about.
Okay, Tiny, how about you?
Yeah, just to list a few. The biggest number one regret is Licorice Pizza.
Oh, yeah,
because I love P.T. Anderson, and he's one of my favorites, top 5 favorites, and I just didn't get around to it. Totally dropped the ball. But a couple of the other ones were The Last Duel. Sounds really fun.
Yeah.
A lot of positive stuff about that. Coda, which I just couldn't. I struggle with Apple getting over to use their. I don't know. I have trouble with their interface. It's a technology issue. Actually, I tried to watch it once and it just wouldn't work. It sucks. Yeah,
that's annoying.
Yeah, it's a bummer. And then one of the other kind of big ones was West Side Story.
Oh yeah,
I'm a big musical fan. I think that.
Yeah, I didn't get to catch that one either.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I heard positive things about that one. So yeah, those are just a few.
Nice.
Of many that I didn't get to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My ones that I missed were Annette, which, Tiny, I know you started it and just couldn't get into it.
I did. I had to turn it off.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know. I kind of want to give it another chance, but yeah, I wasn't into it.
Nice. So Annette, The Humans, which is on Amazon on Showtime. I've heard really great things about it, and also Lamb. Sounded really interesting. No,
it's not.
Nope.
No. In a similar way to Don't Look Up.
Nice.
It's. I mean, I think people considered it a horror movie, and it's one of my pet peeves when people complain about a horror movie not being scary.
Yeah,
and I'm always pretty liberal when it comes to like calling a thing a horror movie. If you want it to be, sure. This is really, really, really not a horror movie.
Okay.
In a very strict sense, it's almost no tension.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and I don't even mean that. It's hard to explain what I mean. It's like the genre is misnamed, calling that a horror movie.
Interesting. Okay.
I'm not saying that I didn't find it scary. I'm saying there's nothing to be scared of.
Wow.
It's a drama. A fantasy drama.
I didn't see that one either.
Yeah. And then I think another one I'll throw out there is Zola, which I didn't have really any interest in, but I heard like Coleman Domingo does a really great job in a supporting role in that. But it's a movie based on a Twitter thread, so that's kind of interesting to me in a weird way. But other than that, I think I got to see just about everything I was hoping to see in 2021. So, or in some cases, everything I was hoping to see in 2020 in 2021. But yeah, and I feel really good about the top 10 list this year, specifically because I was in a much better place mentally for the most part in 2021. And so do you guys want to talk about your honorable mentions? I'm going to nope out of the honorable mentions because I'm going to do a separate episode with podcast stats and Patreon stats and the recurring co-host top 10 and everything. That's when I'll do my honorable mentions. So if you guys want to go ahead and honorable mention some movies.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, and I'll keep the format. So I don't want to be cheeky I considered it for a second, but I decided to keep the integrity of our top 10 list. I almost put the Beatles documentary on this top 10 list.
I was going to ask you if you considered that a movie or not.
Well, I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't. I mean, it's a mini series, and I watch a lot of, I don't know, live music movies. I watch, a lot of like live documentaries, and I just didn't feel like I didn't feel like it fit, and I didn't want I didn't want to have to like you guys to make any concessions. That said, outside of my number one movie, The Beatles was one of the happiest pieces of content that I consumed all year. I mean,
nice.
it's undoubtedly my number two thing that I watched this year.
Nice.
It was such a delight and joy to watch, idols of mine create a thing and kind of be a little different than you expect them to have been at that time. And they're silly and goofy, and then they're just kind of screwing around, and all of a sudden they just get back, just poof, good back out of thin air.
Wow.
So that is, if I'm being cheeky and winking a little bit at you guys, that's my number two movie of the year is The Beatles Get Back. But I won't. I'll save that for honorable mention. Excuse me. Other than that, The Night House was on my top 10 for a while until the end of the year. One of the high up movies kind of bumped out the last one. I really liked The Night House a lot. I thought it had an interesting concept, really good, like effective jump scares. I know jump is a 4-letter word when it comes to scares in horror movies. But I think when they're done effectively and with an artful eye, they say something about horror and what the movie is trying to say.
100% agree.
The reason I kind of,
yeah.
Thank you. The reason I kind of bumped it off the list is because the movie is a heavy metaphor for grief, but in a sense, in the end of the movie, it kind of tries to have its cake and eat it too, and the metaphor falls apart a little bit for me at the end. So I decided to kind of push it. It's close. I really enjoyed it, but it is my number 11. And then finally, Tick, Tick, Boom, Andrew Garfield, The Life of Jonathan Larson, who created Rent. It was a Netflix exclusive. I really, really enjoyed it. Tiny, like you said, I love musicals as well. I also love Rent a lot. And there's a lot of like shades of the music of Rent in Tick, Tick, Boom that I really liked. Andrew Garfield is just having a hell of a year this year.
Yeah.
Just so much fun to watch. Not that people disliked him, but like the narrative surrounding him is so awesome. Tick, Tick, Boom. He's getting Oscar buzz for it. He was in another movie recently that people are kind of reconsidering his part in that same role with a new lens and a new eye, and saying, man, maybe we like underappreciated this talent. Maybe he was the best actor to do this thing, and I really love that for him. In a year when he lost his mother and has been doing like,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Wow.
He was on Colbert, and it was a very, very sweet moment talking about grief. To Stephen Colbert, who has dealt with tremendous grief in his life.
Yeah,
YouTube that for sure.
Yeah,
right. It's absolutely worth a watch. So I kind of cheated a little bit, and it was like I wanted to give one musical representation on my list, and I ended up going with my number 10. But Tick, Tick, Boom is absolutely a great movie. Better than most of the movies from 2020, I'll say that. just kind of a circumstance of time, but I really liked it a lot. So those are my 3 honorable mentions.
Nice. Well, that's great.
Cool.
Tiny, honorable mentions?
Yeah. Tick, Tick, Boom was a regret that I had this year. I should have seen that one as a musical fan. And it was right there on Netflix, and I never got around to it. I guess you could say number 13 was a pretty underrated movie that I'm sure a lot of people didn't see, called The Courier.
Oh, yeah.
which I think was actually filmed in like 2019, was supposed to come out in 2020, but it is technically a 2021 release. We watched it on Amazon, and it's kind of fits into a formula, but the ending was a nice surprise, and like kind of the climax and the denouement was kind of a nice surprise. It wasn't quite so formulaic. It wasn't what I was expecting, and so it made it a kind of a nice movie.
And that's Benedict Cumberbatch in that,
Benedict
right?
Cumberbatch, yeah.
That's kind of funny considering the other movie he was in this year.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So, it was a kind of a nice surprise. I recommend it. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. I watched that. I caught that real late. I watched it like in December finally. And
Me too. I watched it wrapping presents.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Yeah.
I was just pleasantly surprised with it. I'm not really a big fan of gratuitous, how do I want to put it? Like gratuitous representation, like we're Asian people, we're making an Asian movie, and I'm like, we're women, we're making a movie for women, or like, I'm not saying it's bad, I'm just saying it's not all that effective on me, but like, the Asian pride was so fun in this movie. I really felt it, and it was so effective, and like I like related to it for some reason. I'm not even remotely Asian, but it felt like a celebration, and it was like I compared it to Crazy Rich Asians, which I didn't love that. I didn't really like that movie all that much. It was okay, which was obviously a celebration of Asian culture, but it didn't really affect me at all. It didn't really I didn't appreciate it. Didn't resonate, but this totally did, and it wasn't even like the point of the movie. It was about it had its own story, and it was an origin story for this character, and I don't know. It just I guess that just really it connected with me for kind of surprisingly, and it was a really positive way, and I really liked that about it.
Nice.
It also they had a pretty good villain. Like Marvel tends to have terrible villains for their origin movies, and I think this was an effective one, at least from a character level. It was a good one. So I liked Shang-Chi. It was on my top 10 for a while. And then The Harder They Fall. That was such a cool movie. It had like one of the best casts of the whole year, in my opinion. Some of the actors that I'm so excited about, like Lakeith Stanfield is like an actor that I'm just like, so excited about for the future, and he was prominently featured in this movie. And then and a couple up and comers who I've never even heard of and never seen them in anything, and they just blew me away in this movie. Such good character work and great acting, and just a fun, a really fun genre movie with its own spin on it. Really cool movie. So yeah, those are my quick honorable mentions right there.
Nice.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And like I said, I'll do my honorable mentions in a separate episode with a bunch of other fun stuff. But in lieu of an honorable mention in this one, I do want to mention one of the best things I saw in 2021 was not a movie, but a Netflix special, Bo Burnham Inside.
Oh,
genius.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
How did I fail to mention that? Yeah, that's something else entirely as well. I didn't count it either, but that's easily in my top 5 bits of content this year.
Absolutely. Like, just that man is amazing. And also, I do recommend, I'm only a couple episodes in, but Zach Stone is going to be famous is now on Netflix. It's a 1-season MTV show that Bo Burnham did back in the day, and it's really fun. At least these first 2 episodes, so check that out.
I watched it twice while bottle feeding my newborn son.
Oh, nice.
in late nights, early mornings.
Nice. Awesome. Anything else to talk about before we get into our top 10s? Am I forgetting anything? Movies we missed, honorable mentions? Yeah, I don't think so. Anything else you guys want to bring up before we get into our top 10s of 2021?
I don't think so. Let's do this thing. I'm ready.
All right, perfect. Well, what we usually do is we'll do round robin, 10, 9, 8, 7, blah, blah, blah. In a couple of years ago, we did a thing where we skipped if one of us had the other's number one. Let's not do that. We'll just do it regular.
Cool.
So,
okay. Yeah. Good idea.
Right. Yeah. So we're going to start with number 10 on our top 10 list. Mike, do you want to get us kicked off with your number 10?
Yeah, so my number 10 was the other musical that I was talking about this year. And I just gave a slight edge to In the Heights, which is directed by John M. Chu, which is an adaptation of the stage musical, Lin-Manuel Miranda's first stage musical, kind of before Hamilton. He did In the Heights. And it's really awesome. You know, you talked about Shang-Chi being a celebration of Asian culture, and not intentionally so. It's just a martial arts movie that happens to celebrate that culture. Well, In the Heights really is a celebration of Latino culture and dreamers coming to America. And I just thought that it was a good time for that kind of a message. It was a fun experience to see in a movie theater in, you know, kind of a sad year going through COVID. But more than anything, the music just, what do the kids say? It bops, it slaps.
It's a vibe.
It's a vibe. Yeah, it's so well done. There's one, I mean, there's several production numbers, but there's one that takes place at a pool kind of in the middle that just, I mean, I was like, I could have been out of my seat dancing along to this musical for a couple weeks. I listened to the soundtrack afterwards. I just think what Lin-Manuel is able to do in blending like hip hop style of music with Latin flavors into like musical sounding music. Like, you know, I played my wife a little bit of one of the songs from Tick Tick Boom, and she was like, "Is this a musical?" I was like, "Yes, but it's good." And so In the Heights songs kind of do that at times. It'll start like a musical, like they bump into each other and a sentence turns into a song. But I love that. And I especially love it when it's done in a fresh way, when it has a strong message, and it's about a culture, and it's kind of about our time. I think is timely, effective, really fun, really interesting, great music. My number 10, In the Heights.
Nice.
Sweet.
Awesome. Tiny, did you watch In the Heights?
I did. I was definitely positive on it. I liked it. Yeah, it's a good movie.
I watched it too. It's not on my top 10 or honorable mentions, but I really enjoyed it. I liked it a lot. Anthony Ramos. Amazing.
So good.
So freaking good.
Yep.
Yeah, good pick.
Thank you.
Tiny. Oh, by the way, I am going to be putting links to everything that we have talked about, and every podcast episode, Patreon special, every written review and everything for each movie discussed in here. So check the show notes and the website for all of that. But Tiny, your numero 10.
My number 10 is Being the Ricardos.
Interesting.
Yes. I think this movie kind of had mixed reviews, and it is an Aaron Sorkin production. He wrote and directed. And I think, Aaron Sorkin is, I am an unabashed fan of him. I adore the man's writing. He's really talented in my book. But I do think the way I've come to describe him is he's an acquired taste. And I'm thinking back to, I don't think it was this year. I think it was maybe even 2 years ago, Matt, you did a series, you did a retrospective on Tarantino with Fecus.
2019.
Yeah, 2019. Okay, I thought it was a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And I've come to sort of think of Sorkin in the same vein as Tarantino.
Okay.
Because in a few times during that retrospective, you described Tarantino as mostly a style director. He is a style. He's not so much about the substance or the story or all that stuff. He just wants to convey his style. He's just highly stylistic. And that's how I describe Aaron Sorkin. He has his formula. He has his habits, and he sticks to them with everything he does. And the thing is, I just love his style. It speaks to me, and it's what I adore. It's not realistic. It's not like a common thing. Like, you can't even say like, oh, he's like Ridley Scott or like Steven Spielberg or anything. Like, he's his own thing. And I completely understand if people just don't jive with it, but I just really, really do. And he just speaks to me. And Being the Ricardos was totally Sorkin Sorkining it up full on. I do think he's better as a writer. I don't think he's a bad director by any means, but I think his works are better when he hands it off to a different director.
Yeah.
I will say that, but there's also some incredible performances here. The casting is amazing. J.K. Simmons was a performance that really stood out in this movie. I'm blanking on his name right now. Buster Bluth, Tony Hale. Tony Hale is so amazing to see him in anything, but especially a big, like, dramatic role like this was so great because he was really good in this.
And it was really cool to see him and what's her name? Oh my god.
Oh yeah, maybe Aaliyah Shawkat
in the same movie. Like that's really cool.
Totally. Yeah. So yeah, great, just really great acting in this. I was a little skeptical on Nicole Kidman as playing Lucille Ball, but I think she did a really good job. Yeah, and it's just the confluence of events, the structure to set it over a week. It takes place in like one of my favorite eras of American history, kind of the, post-war era, baby boomer era. I find that so fascinating. So it was just banging on all cylinders for me personally. And also my family has a history with I Love Lucy. We used to watch VHS copies of it all the time when we were kids, and I used to laugh my ass off. Nice. And so, yeah, it was just banging on all cylinders and nostalgia and all that stuff for me. And I just really adored the movie. So it was definitely had a spot on my top 10.
Nice.
Yeah.
For a moment, I was a little afraid you were going to say my family has a history with McCarthyism and the House Un-American Activities Committee. Okay.
Right. And this is like the 19th time that Aaron Sorkin has written about HUAC and people being called to testify.
Yeah.
And it's like it's one of his wells he draws from all the time. Mm-hmm. So yeah. He's a bit repetitive and everything, and I get that, but he just speaks to me.
Yeah. Did you saw the trial of the Chicago 7, right?
It was on my top 10 last year.
Okay, that's right. And did you ever see Molly's Game?
I have not watched that yet.
Okay.
It didn't look very good to me.
It really wasn't.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah. All right, so my number 10, like this is the moment where we start saying our number, saying our list, and then I get an existential like freak out moment where I'm like, should this be number this? Should this be number that?
I mean, after we do, it's set to record now.
Yeah, exactly.
It's out.
Oh yeah, the Letterboxd lists go public. So my number 10 is Denis Villeneuve's Dune. This was a very kind of tough sell for me almost. I came out of I saw it twice in theaters and then once for a commentary track for Patreon. So I've seen this movie 3 times and it grows with each viewing, because that first viewing I was a little bit cold on it because I didn't necessarily expect what Villeneuve was going to concentrate on in it. And when I kind of got that, and I feel like this is a bit of a cop-out to say like, oh, well, I watched it a few times and it grew on me and everything. Like, should it stand on its own as on a first viewing or not? But I really grew to respect what he did with that. And there's been a lot of maligning of it, saying like, well, it's only half a movie, which it does feel like part 1. It feels more like part 1 than any other part 1 has felt like a part 1 in recent memory.
Yeah, totally. It does.
Yeah, but the ensemble cast, the sound design, the visuals, the realization, the visualization of Arrakis and all of these things in the Duneverse. And I still think that it is just a stroke of genius the way that he is able to condense this very dense mythology and world building and everything into something that shouldn't work, a voiceover by a character that's barely in the movie, just espousing dialogue and espousing exposition to us. It shouldn't work, but the combination of that and the visuals, it's like it brings us in. We know what the conflict is. We know what we're going to be getting into. And from there, it's just a really well-told story. I do still wish that there were some like elements that were focused on more, but by the end of it, I think that it stands on its own as a very interesting science fiction film that is really an impressive achievement visually and filmmakingly. So that's my number 10, Dune. I really I enjoyed it. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Mike, do you want to hit us with your number 9?
Sure. So my number 9 is The Matrix Resurrections. And
interesting.
If there are controversial takes, and I don't think that I'm very controversial or like I didn't put the Beatles in here, even though I think there could be an argument made. But I think this is the one that had the most mixed reviews, is The Matrix Resurrections. I do think that it is a departure for the franchise. And I'll say at the onset, my biggest qualm, which is, why does this movie exist? I don't know that it was fully satisfied. I think not to spoil too much, but there is a bit of a meta reference early on in the movie that talks about studio meddling, right? Like that points to. So again, I don't think this is a spoiler, because I think there's some truth to this production, that I think Warner Brothers would have made this movie with or without the Wachowski siblings. So part of this movie feels like Lana Wachowski just saying, well, I'm not going to let you ruin my baby, so I got to make something. That said, I do think it is a middle finger to our expectations. I think it's a middle finger to Warner Brothers. The movie doesn't look like The Matrix. It's not green. There's no green tint to it. It's a love story, so it's not about, he's not the chosen one. There's more focus on not so much world building like the other two, but like mythology expanding on Neo and the characters that with which he interacts with, and I'm trying to avoid spoilers, but there's obviously one character in particular, and it's about that relationship. So I just think that the movie is saying something interesting that I don't know that I grasped onto at first viewing. My first viewing was, this is The Matrix, and it's awesome. It feels a little different. They didn't do bullet time. It doesn't look green. I thought that they had achieved peace in the third movie. This doesn't look like peace, but there's something punk rock and anarchic about the experience of this movie that, as a punk rock kid, as a bit of an anarchist myself, I really kind of latched onto that ethos reading about the movie later. It's not one of my favorites in the franchise. I mean, clearly not number 1, but I do think it's better than 3. And I love the franchise so much. And I love, like I said, the ethos of this movie. I think what Lana Wachowski is trying to say here goes a long way for me. It goes at least long enough to end up my number 9 on my list here.
Cool.
Nice. Yeah, it didn't make any of my list, but I respect that. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought the concept was a really good idea. Yeah.
Nice. Tiny, how about your number 9?
My number 9 is the documentary Val.
Oh,
came
nice.
out this year. Yeah. I watched it on Amazon Prime, I think. And I just really loved the intimacy of this documentary. Val Kilmer spent decades, filming behind the scenes stuff on some legendary movies, big Hollywood movies that a lot of us love, at least in our generation and older. And so that stuff was fun to see, and it was so poignant, given the situation that Val Kilmer is in now. For those who don't know, he had throat cancer.
Yeah.
And he had to have a permanent tracheotomy put in or something like that. And he has he can't speak very well anymore. And it's effectively ruined his career. And he was, it's mentioned in the documentary, he was approaching what he considered to be the role of a lifetime for him. And he got started on it. And then his cancer reared its ugly head, and that was kind of the end of it for him, and he's never going to be able to really do it. Yeah. And that was just a real shame to watch in the documentary, but it was incredible to just witness his story juxtaposed with his current situation. And it was narrated by his son, Jack.
Was that his son?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was wondering.
And he has a very similar sounding voice to Val Kilmer, so that was kind of a treat in that regard. But I just loved the unabashed intimacy of this documentary and the fearlessness of it from Val Kilmer, and the vulnerability. I mean, some people who would come to that horrible fork in the road of their life would just, completely recluse themselves, become a recluse and don't want to talk to anybody. But he chose to put a camera on his face, and that's just incredible that he chose to do that, and I really respect him for it. And I also love Val Kilmer. The guy is a true artist, and it's exemplified in the movie really well. The guy was, he kind of, I would say, based on how he spoke about his career and his craft, he kind of transcended the art. And a lot of people probably associate him with kind of big popcorn movies. I mean, he played Batman, which is one of the most coveted roles in all of Hollywood. And, he did these big popcorn movies, but he approached those roles like he was going for an Oscar, and that's just how it was. Just a craft for him. It was a calling. And I loved seeing that exemplified over a 3 or 4 decade career, straight from the horse's mouth. It's such a cool documentary. I highly recommend it. It was really good.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's on Amazon Prime.
Yep.
Mike, did you get a chance to see that one?
I did not. No.
Yeah, I recommend it too. It didn't make my list, but I recommend it. My number 9 is Coda. Just a lovely, lovely movie. Breakout performance by Emilia Jones. I mean, she was incredible. And also the supporting cast is great, but also Troy Kotsur, who played her father. Like, those two together, there are scenes in this movie that had me like very, very choked up. It's such a beautiful such a beautiful like family drama and coming of age story, and just this beautifully realized film about family and connection, and being tethered to your family and wanting to do well for your family, but also having your own goals, your own dreams, your own things, and that kind of clash, the way that it clashes with them not understanding you, or you not understanding them, or their need for you. It is such a rich movie, and the way that it culminates in certain aspects, like there are multiple scenes that, like I said, had me like almost in tears. And like I said, Emilia Jones, phenomenal. Like there's a scene at the end of the movie where she does something that is just, I mean, spectacular. And to see the reactions, it's just, it's such a beautiful and warm movie that just feels just so warm. Yeah. It was a huge hit at Sundance, and then fortunately it's on Apple TV Plus now. But another aspect of it is the kind of filming of it, the location of it, the fact that a lot of the actors are deaf people. That aspect of it is very interesting. The way that the communication is done, the like little subtleties to the American Sign Language that's used in it. It's such a great movie, and there are moments in it that are just hilarious as well. I love it. I love it. Coda number 9, sorry, for 2021 for me.
Awesome.
Yeah. Mike.
Yeah. I'm going to talk about Coda later.
Nice.
So my number 8 is The Green Knight. Some of my favorite movie experiences are when like a whole genre of a movie subverts my tendencies, my interests. I don't really like medieval pictures, and I certainly don't like fantasies. And this was a medieval fantasy movie. I also don't love slow plodding journeys in movies. And so this sounds totally antithetical to that, but there was something about the Green Knight that just spoke to me in such a strong, impactful way as I was watching it. I found it so entertaining. I don't traditionally, when I see movies, have an eye for brilliant or mindful or thoughtful cinematography. That's not. I'm a story guy. I'm a characters guy. Most of the rest of the movies that I'll be talking about are stories and characters.
Mm-hmm.
And this one isn't so much. I mean, this is, one of the knights that we know about, Sir Gawain, and, his adventure. And I don't usually find that stuff so interesting. And you'll just have to forgive the cliches, but these scenes were tapestries. I mean, there were shots that were paintings, that were just works of art, where everything is framed in such a way that it looks like you're watching an art installation rather than just this cool medieval story. I mean, it's haunting. It's spooky. That might have spoken to me, some of the horror aspects of it. It's not really a frightening movie, but it's an unsettling, it's a dark fantasy kind of thing. And it's a meditation on heroism and bravery and truthfulness and honesty. So I thought Dev Patel's, that's the actor, right? Dev Patel. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. I thought his performance was incredible, and not all that. I mean, there's not a whole lot to do. He does a lot of silent acting and solo acting in this thing. It's not like there are these crazy monologues that he goes on. But I was just a movie that I wouldn't have expected to like. I was so thoroughly and consistently entertained for the entire run time. It's easily a number 8 for me.
Nice. Sweet.
Very nice. I'll be talking about that later, but...
Me too.
Yeah, awesome. Very nice.
Cool.
Tiny, how about your number 8?
My number 8 is Come On, Come On, nice. Which was written and directed by Mike Mills, who I'm not especially familiar with, but this movie was so... It was kind of strange because I feel like a story like this... It would take place during. I feel like it was this movie took place during the aftermath of the most significant events in these people's lives. So man,
that's awesome.
Yeah, so Joaquin Phoenix's character and his sister, played by Gabby Hoffman, they've been through so much drama in their life. And all these huge earth-shattering, family-shattering events. And the movie takes place after that, right? We get to see little glimpses of it, but even some of the scenes where, in the past, during those dramatic events, they were fighting, literally screaming at each other. There's not even any sound. And I thought that was strange until we get, until you understand how it influences the story we're actually watching. Where the reason why the story of a man who is kind of thrust into the position of caring for a child for the first time in his life, the reason why it's significant is because of what he's learned throughout all the dramatic moments in his life and all of the terrible earth-shattering parts of his life have already happened, and he's developed into this man who's thrust into this position, and he's able to face that because of what he's been through. And same thing with his sister. And it's just interesting. You would think the movie would be about those other things, but it's about this, and it's really, compared to all that other stuff, him having to watch a kid for a few months isn't a big deal. But it's really cool to just see how those things juxtaposed with one another. It was so cool. I also loved how his character, it's a little vague what his actual occupation is, but he goes around and interviews kids about what they think the future is going to be like, and what their life is currently like, and what they've been through. And it's interesting to see how he grows in that regard after having to look after a kid and kind of become a surrogate father to this kid. And it's really fascinating. He's got all these questions for these kids around the country, and he records it, and it's, he's making art based on this stuff. And meanwhile, he has a direct link to the source with a kid at home. And it's funny because he doesn't really ask all these questions of his nephew. He only asks it to these other kids he's interviewing. It's really interesting the way the story kind of meanders, and it's one of those movies, it's all in black and white, and it's definitely kind of an Oscar baity artistic indie movie, but it's, like I said, it kind of avoids all these uber dramatic moments that these people go through, and it focuses on the in-between stuff. And I thought that was so brilliant and clever and just really fun to watch. And of course, amazing performances. Gabby Hoffman is most famous as a child actor. She was in like Uncle Buck and like a couple of like 90s movies, and then just didn't act for a long time. And she was in the HBO show Girls, which I saw her in, but I associate her with like a child actor and don't really have much of a beat on how she is as an actor as an adult. And she was just phenomenal in this. I really felt her. I felt her pain and her stress. She was so stressed in this movie, and that really translated well in her performance. And not to mention the child actor Woody Norman who played the kid. I mean, just incredible how they. I hope this kid doesn't have damage later in life, because he had some sort of intense things to deal with, but he did a great job too. So it's really unique and clever and brilliant movie. I really loved Come On, Come On.
Nice. Yeah, I will be talking about that later.
Sweet.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so my number 8 is, I feel like I have to preface this, or I feel like I have to, I don't know, because I feel weird, not weird, but there are a number of movies on my list that did not have like wide releases, or that I saw like film festivals or through other connections and everything. But this movie, number 8, is Drive My Car, which is a Japanese 3-hour film about a man who loses his wife, and then 2 years later he is he is putting on a show of Uncle Vanya in Hiroshima, and it's really interesting because the performance is like he's using multiple languages. It's a multilingual production. So like one character speaks Japanese, one character speaks English, one character speaks like Chinese, or one person signs and everything, and that's how the production is done. But what's really just absolutely entrancing about Drive My Car is how it's about the complexities of love, and how this character deals with the pain and the grief that he experiences 2 years after losing his wife. And it's in a different way than what you would kind of expect, because it's more of a grief of knowledge. Like he knows things that he shouldn't know, and he also wants to know things that people that he is around knows, but he can't really communicate that all that well. So it's this very intricate, like, rumination on the complexities of love and grief, and how and to a lesser extent, like how like language is used and everything. It's just so entrancing, like I said. And the big point of the movie, or the titular point of the movie, I just noticed on my Letterboxd review that I think I typed sorry instead of sorrow twice. But it's something that'll stay with me for a while, but it's just very beautiful. Like it's, the titular, the reason the title is Drive My Car is because when he is hired to do that, to direct that play, the company is like, you need to have a driver. And so the driver literally drives his car, and they have a really good like chemistry, and this really good like relationship that grows that's platonic, and it's all about grief between them. It's just really, really beautiful. And I do have to say that this Friday on the 14th or 15th, it is playing in Indianapolis at the Can Theater, and I really recommend it. Like I said, it's a 3-hour movie, but it is beautiful, and it's amazing because you get the first 45 minutes is the first act of the movie, and then once that's done, you get the opening credits, and it's like it's just, and it doesn't feel like it though. It's like it is so. It's so well done and so brilliantly paced that it's just, you don't feel that runtime because it's just so immersive. But I absolutely loved it. It's Drive My Car. It's number 8, and it's playing at the Can this weekend in Indianapolis.
Sweet.
Yeah. And I believe it is Japan's official selection for the Oscars, and I would be shocked if it doesn't win. And also, it was the runner-up for Best Film in the IFJA. So,
cool.
There's that.
Awesome.
Yeah. And so that's my number 8. And Mike, do you want to bring us into your number 7?
Yeah, number 7, a movie we've talked about already. Dune.
Nice.
Ends up at number 7 on my list. And one of the things that I think is really cool about Dune, and you see it a couple times, it's a bit rare, but when a movie is influenced by a thing that is influenced by its own source material. And what I mean is that there are clear influences to Dune in the Star Wars movies. I don't think that it's a secret. I mean, I think George Lucas was inspired by, and in the writing and then also in the filmmaking of Star Wars by Dune, 1965. The novel Dune. And then so it's cool to see, to think about how influential the filmmaking of Star Wars is. I mean, we know the story and the influence of the story, but I think one of the things, over time and with, the, what's the word I'm looking for? Like the dissolving of quality over time of Star Wars, we kind of forget like how important that filmmaking is. And so to kind of see Denis Villeneuve, who I've argued is one of, if not my favorite director working right now, clearly influenced by the filmmaking and style of world building that George Lucas was doing in the original Star Wars trilogy, which in turn was influenced by this novel. So, this movie, Dune, 2021's Dune Part 1, is clearly the source material is the novel, but I also argue that Star Wars is a bit of a source material. It's just kind of like the DNA flows throughout. And I think the most impressive thing about Dune is that world building. So I've never read Dune. I did not go in with any knowledge about it. I knew that Lucas was influenced by it, and so I was looking to see how that would present itself in a movie that's now 40 something years since Star Wars came out. It was super well done. The performances were fantastic. I love Oscar Isaac in everything he does. I think Timothée Chalamet is a bit of a meme because he's kind of everywhere, but I think it's deserved. I mean, I think the kid is fantastic. And if I could complain about it, it just ends pretty abruptly, and there's a part 2 coming. But I really loved what it had to offer. I liked the half of movie that it is. And so it's number 7 for me, Dune.
Yeah.
Sweet.
I love that comparison to Star Wars and everything, because I was thinking about that, just how cool it is, like the way that the transports look like I'm probably getting this wrong from Star Wars, but like the sand peoples, the
sand crawlers,
yeah. Like just like I was like, whoa, this is interesting. Also, the fact that it's a desert planet,
right,
yeah, just really cool. That's a good point. Yeah,
cool.
Tiny, your number 7.
My number 7 is the movie Mass.
Nice.
Yeah, written and directed by Fran Kranz. his directorial debut, if I'm correct. Yeah.
Fran Kranz of Dark Tower fame.
Yes. Yeah. So, this movie kind of came out of nowhere. It wasn't really on my radar at all, and Matt recommended it, and just based on the description and stuff like that, and some of the cast, I was just fully on board. I'm always very intrigued when a movie uses a unique format of some kind. I think that always makes a movie stand out to me, and this movie definitely has one, because 90% of the movie takes place in one room with 4 characters, and all they're doing is talking.
Yeah.
There's no flashbacks. There's no there's no flash. There's no pomp and circumstance. It's all very raw. It is a very straightforward format, and it relies so strongly on performance, and it relies on script and writing, and it relies on camera work. Mm-hmm. And those are some of my favorite aspects to discover in a movie and focus on and appreciate in a movie. And this Mass was just off the charts on all those categories. Jason Isaac is one of my favorite character actors. He's so underappreciated in so many ways. But I think my favorite performance was actually Reed Birney.
Oh, nice.
And I think because his character was the most interesting to me, because I feel like the other 3 characters are still kind of learning how to live with this tragedy and this horrible, horrible, awful event in their lives, and they're still processing it. And I feel like his character was so integral because he has already processed. He has gone through every facet of this event. He has gone through every emotion, and he has come to a place of completion where he has learned to live with what has happened. And he is I don't know about healthy, but an existing person who every emotion that these people are still going through, he's already gone through it. And that's why I think he's one of the most interesting characters. And I was so fascinated to see how he reacted to all the stuff that's thrown at him in this movie. It's really incredible. I think he's an interesting focal point for the movie, and he's just who I latched onto. But every performance is just Oscar worthy, so damn good. And it's just such a unique format for a movie, such a unique idea. And it's also about a political subject, but is not a political movie at all, which really kind of blew me away. Yeah. It's just such a brilliant and well-crafted, well-acted movie. I was really blown away by it. I think everybody should see it too. I think it's one of those movies everyone should see, because it's the pinnacle of drama, in my opinion. So well done. Yeah. I'm going to talk about that later. Mike, did you get a chance to see Mass?
No, I haven't seen that one either.
Okay. I'll talk about that later.
Cool.
My number 7 is again a movie that isn't widely available. It premiered at Heartland Film Festival this year, but it's called Ninja Baby. It's a Norwegian comedy drama about a young woman who finds out that she is pregnant, and then finds out that she's very pregnant, and that she didn't know it, and now it's too late for her to terminate the pregnancy. She doesn't want the pregnancy, she doesn't want the baby, so she has to contend with telling the father, and then finding a way to adopt out this baby and everything, and having this just thing thrust on her that in a few months she's going to have a baby, and she didn't know that. I think it's really, really clever, really just quirky in a Diablo Cody kind of way, but has this sentimental side to it, and this heart that it's aware of the seriousness of the drama that it's playing out. And there's this shift in the movie where we have this quirkiness that is just it's playing not really heightened comedy, but it's playing this comedic style where she is she's talking to a martial arts instructor that she had a one night stand with, and it's very awkward because he's closing down the dojo and everything, and she just came out of the bathroom and she had just taken she either took a massive shit or she was constipated, so she's worried about that while she's talking to this man, and then like the camera shifts to seeing the inside the bathroom, and it's just like her memory of them having sex, and it's just the juxtaposition of their awkward conversation and the memory shown to us in the bathroom is just really great. And then there's another element of it that is just really charming, but also gives it its heart and its sentimentality, is that she is an aspiring comic artist, and she draws like a little animated figure of the baby. And I love that it's called Ninja Baby, because she says like, you're a ninja because I didn't know you were in there, and you're a baby, you're a ninja baby. And so this like, yeah. And so this like animated like little ninja that she draws is like animated in the movie and speaks to her. And it's like, it's one of those things where it's like her, imagination of it and everything, obviously, but it just gives so much more context to what she's feeling and what she feels she is due to, like the duty she has to this fetus that's growing inside her. And it's really complex and really interesting, but also very charming and funny in parts. And like the ending is beautiful. It doesn't go the way that a conventional, like I would say that if this movie gained traction and everything, I don't know if it's going to get distribution anywhere or anything, but if it does, and then like someone like one of the studios here in the States buys the rights to remake it, they would not make the same ending, because the ending that we get is a much more down to earth and less Hollywood movie ending. It's a very, very nice end to several character arcs that I found really, really charming. I was really taken with it. So anyway, that's my number 7. It's Ninja Baby. Hopefully it's available at some point in the future. But yeah, but it was really good.
Sweet.
I liked it. Yeah. Whew. All right, Mikey, number 6.
Yeah, my number 6. So at this point, not that the top the previous 4 weren't good, but these 6 are inarguable. These are like shameless. I will fight for these. These I think are some of the best experiences for me over the years. So Ridley Scott directed 2 of the most interesting movie experiences I had this year. One of them was the incredibly forgettable House of Gucci, and I remember it because I got in a car accident. And the other one is the incredibly memorable The Last Duel,
yes,
which I think this year is I hate to throw around the term underrated or overrated. I think generally things are rated the way they're supposed to be, but I am confused how this movie was overlooked the way that it was. I think excuse me. I think the buzz around this movie should have been way higher. I think Ridley Scott, around the release of this movie, kind of in interviews, like jokingly and then sometimes not so jokingly, had comments about why people didn't go see this movie. But really, that's irrelevant. What is true is that this movie is fantastic. And it does kind of a filmmaking trope that we're familiar with, the idea of the same story told from multiple perspectives. But what this movie does with that is unique, and that's offering the theme of truth told over 3 different perspectives. So the idea is that one character rapes the wife of another character, and then they essentially have a duel to determine the truth, which is ridiculous in the first place. It's this barbaric ritual and court system, and it obviously shines a light on the Me Too movement and how things haven't changed all that much, and how when a thing like that happens, when there are accusations, the story becomes about the men avenging what they've done or having to make amends rather than listening to the true stories of what these women are saying. I don't know that, France needs like a magnifying glass. Medieval times, we need to take a magnifying glass to that to kind of uncover some of the atrocities that happened. But the way that it modernizes a perspective that was, like I said, truly barbaric hundreds of years ago, it's kind of a shame that things haven't changed all that much. So the performances, like I said, are unassailable. I hope that at least Jodie Comer is going to get some Oscar attention for this. Ben Affleck is fantastic. When Ben Affleck does that, like, knowing smile, smirk kind of laugh thing that he does, like, you're in a good movie, and he does it in this movie twice. Matt Damon is fantastic. He is the story, the perspective of the story that you see first of the three, and it's told, like he's this misunderstood hero of the story, and it's not until 45 minutes or so into the story that you understand that the events, the plot is being told again from a different perspective. And somebody else thinks that Matt Damon, who is the hero of his own story, it might actually just be a buffoon. Right. And then you get the woman's perspective, the wife's perspective, and it's shades of both of the other two versions of the story that you got. You see that in some aspects, Matt Damon still is a buffoon, and he's also kind of a monster of a husband, and in some ways he is fighting for the honor of his wife, and so there is some value to that. But Adam Driver's performance in particularly his version of the story, the middle sequence of the movie, and then the truth, or at least what I take to be the true version of the story, is the third one. The depiction of the rape scene and the events that take place, and his version of it is haunting to watch in the first place. Like, even his, this isn't really my fault, I was tempted by her, she kind of wanted it version was disgusting and deplorable and, worthy of condemnation or whatever judgment he needs to face. Like, his version of it is disgusting, and then you see her version, the victim's version, which is just more heinous and disgusting. And so to kind of offer those two perspectives and say that these are different perspectives, but we go, well, wait, they're both disgusting and vile, and that this man didn't even think that his version of a disgusting act is all that disgusting. So that eye on telling the truth is a really unique perspective. It's something I've never seen before, done in an interesting way, a plot that is easy to follow and fun to watch. The final battle, so I will say it's in the title. I don't think that that's a spoiler. There is a duel. It is incredibly tense and super entertaining to watch. And then the performances all along the way are great. I would argue that anybody who missed this movie should see it. I think this movie should have been a little more popular than it was.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's kind of fashionable for us to say this, but if we were doing a top 11, it would probably be my number 11.
Sure.
And to riff on your point about the duel and everything, Ridley Scott, he's up there, and he has not skipped a beat from the days of Gladiator or Kingdom of Heaven. Just tense and brutal, just amazing.
Yeah. I just think, the ending of Last Duel is it's so rare that you get a movie where you can't predict the ending. You can't predict who is win. Maybe I'm going to commit a movie review foul here, but I'm just going to say every superhero movie we saw this year, the good guys win.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what to tell you there. There's not really that sense of tension. Like, how are they going to get out of this? Is this going to, but like, I really didn't know who was going to win the duel. Right. I think that the tension was so thick there.
Yeah.
It makes me really want to see it. I missed it.
Yeah. It's
Tiny,
really
I really think you would like it.
Oh, I know. I would.
Hearing your movie tastes over the years, I think you would like The Last Duel quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think you talked about how it was underappreciated or a lot of people missed it. I think it was really mismarketed.
Yeah.
Not just undermarketed, but mismarketed. I think it was a lot of the tone, the themes and stuff you just mentioned talking about it did not come across in the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. So, yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Because it was great.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep. So Tiny, your number 6.
My number 6 is a little movie called Small Engine Repair.
Nice.
I know not a lot of people saw this movie. Right. It's based on a play, maybe Broadway play. I'm not really sure if it was on Broadway. It's written and directed by a gentleman named John Polano. I have not seen. He was in an episode of like How I Met Your Mother years ago. That's like the only thing I've seen him in, and I didn't even remember him. So I'm not familiar with him at all. But this movie is really incredible. I was really pleased with it. It's incredibly thrilling, and it's heartfelt in so many ways, relatable in some ways. But recently I've been seeing a lot of stories and watching a lot of stuff that involves the kind of a 21st century term, toxic masculinity. This movie kind of explores that a little bit, and it's something that I'm becoming more and more familiar with, and it's something I've been familiar with. I just didn't necessarily have a name for it. But it's something that I just find so off-putting. Toxic masculinity, macho bullshit is a term that I would have used in the past that I think is a synonym for toxic masculinity. I just think it's ridiculous, and I think it's incredibly fake, and it annoys the shit out of me. Mm-hmm. And the way it's displayed in this movie is really fascinating, and it's not overt. It's not. It's kind of in the subtext. But it's at the heart. The movie is just a really cool story, and a really, it's touching in a lot of ways. It's disturbing in a lot of ways. The acting is off the charts. John Polano blew me away. This is pretty much the first time I've ever seen him. It's almost a debut for the guy on the big screen, and he was just phenomenal. Has an incredible physical presence. He's a very intimidating guy, but he's also like the father of a daughter. He's a girl dad, and he's so like tender and kind to his daughter, and the next scene he'll be beating the living shit out of somebody. Wow. And just a very physically imposing guy. He really walked a fine thread in his performance, and I really appreciated it. It also kind of deals with the theme of how we interact on social media. I think that's a pretty poignant part of the movie as well. Plays a big part in the plot and everything. It's just a really cool movie, a well-crafted story. There's not much it's almost a spoiler to tell you what the plot is, I guess. I don't really want to say much about it other than it's not a very long movie either. I think people should just go see it. I think it's available on Amazon Prime. I think it's free on there. That's how I watched it.
To rent.
Is it to rent? I couldn't remember. I saw it a little while ago, but it's worth the rent. I thought it was just incredible on so many levels. Really good cast too. John Polano he's kind of the main guy, but then John Bernthal is in it, and he was also in the play on Broadway. And then Shea Whigham is also in it from
that guy. Boardwalk
Empire. He's really good. There's also like a surprising amount of comedy for such a dramatic movie. It's just such a good movie with really good characters. I highly recommend it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I missed that one. I'll have to circle back and check it out.
It is good.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
So my number 6 is P.T. Anderson's Licorice Pizza.
Nice.
Which was a unique movie for me, because it is very much in that vein of like a general like hangout movie where the movie is almost pretty much all composed of just sequences and vignettes, and the kind of thread that ties it all together is the central relationship between that is kind of a little icky, a 15-year-old boy and this mid-20s woman. But the way that P.T. Anderson kind of skirts that line of inappropriateness makes it a little bit more palatable and even more charming, because it creates this this interesting tether that they have for each other, where they are romantically interested in each other, but there's that age gap and everything, and she's very much like keeping him at a distance, but finds herself drawn to him, and the romantic connection between them is not the focal point. It's this kind of entrepreneurial
entrepreneurial.
There you go. Connection between the two of them, that like he's this like hotshot child actor, and she is kind of this listless mid-20s, woman. And they go into business together on a bunch of different ventures and stuff, because he has a lot of money from his acting and everything. They run afoul of like people that are not that are intimidating and everything, and like it goes from like the ebb and flow of just really, really high, like high up farce comedy. Like there is this whole section with I think it's Tom Waits and, oh my God, what's his name? Sean Penn. That is just so weird, and so like Tom Waits is so gross, and it's like they play like these older, like kind of coked out Hollywood people, and it's really, really funny and really charming all the same. And the way that the movie plays out and the drama unfolds and the comedy unfolds is just really good. And I didn't get a chance, or I never got around to seeing Phantom Thread, which was P.T. Anderson's previous movie with Daniel Day-Lewis and people, very highly respected and everything. But I never saw it, but I did see Inherent Vice, and I just did not like that movie at all. Mm-hmm. And I kind of feel like this movie is somewhat similar in the way that it's kind of a collection of vignettes just about. It's similar to Inherent Vice in that respect, but it just worked for me. I just wanted to live in this world. It's set in 70s San Fernando Valley, and it just looks just stunning, like gorgeous, like attention to detail with creating that time or that era on film. And the performances are great. The lead actor, the guy who plays Gary, is Cooper Hoffman, who is Philip Seymour Hoffman's son. I believe this is his first, his first role. And then playing Alana is Alana Haim, who is a musician, and her whole family's like in the movie too. And it has an amazing like supporting / extended cameo from Bradley Cooper, who is just swinging for the fences. It's just it's so good.
Nice.
So yeah, Licorice Pizza, that's my number 6. I really, really had fun with this, and I can't wait to see it again.
Nice.
That's Licorice Pizza.
I'm really bummed I missed that one.
Yeah, high recommend.
Nice.
Mike, have you had a chance to see Licorice Pizza?
No, that's what. Yes, I have had a chance, and I didn't want to see it.
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
I don't know. We kind of on this podcast don't really spend a whole lot of energy on things we don't like. But I dislike P.T. Anderson. I've had negative on the negative end of neutral experiences with P.T. Anderson movies. I love There Will Be Blood, but other than that, I would say I've had negative experiences. I don't like Punch Drunk Love. I don't like Boogie Nights. I really disliked The Master, and then Inherent Vice just didn't look like my kind of movie. So, in fact, we were thinking of movies to see last week, and my friend said, "Well, what about Licorice Pizza?" And kind of like an a-hole. I don't know why I blurted it out so quickly. I was like, "Oh, I don't want to see that. I hate P.T. Anderson." And I regretted it. Like I regretted the snap negativity. But no offense. I know. Tiny, especially, you're a big fan of his work, but it's not for me. It just doesn't work for me.
Knowing what I know about you, I don't think I would have ever recommended a P.T. Anderson movie for you, Mike, because it makes sense for you because I know what kind of movie fan you are, and I would have never thought that you would have been a P.T. Anderson fan. So that tracks. Yeah. So yeah.
Well, I think it's great.
There Will Be Blood is a masterpiece.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, that's great. That's my favorite of his. So that's good.
Yeah, that is a masterpiece. That one's undeniable.
Sweet.
So there is that. I will give that.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, and now we are coming to the top 5. And Mike, like you said, these are the tops. These are tops. These are
tops of the tops.
These are the big ones. So why don't you go ahead and hit us with your number 5?
Well, I might have spoken too soon with my number 6 about like my unassailable choices. I went a little grand, but essentially what I mean is I feel passionately about these top 6. And it's the type of thing I predict in a couple of years that top 6 will still be in my top 10. Whereas if I watch Tick Tick Boom again, it might end up in my top 10. Night House might, that sort of thing. Yeah. But these are glued onto the poster board of my top 21. That said, I also don't claim objectivity with this list. So this might be an unpopular choice, and I don't care because if you know me at all, you know that I loved Halloween Kills. I loved Halloween Kills, and oh gosh, Matt and I spent a lot of time talking about Halloween Kills. Did we do an episode on Halloween Kills?
I honestly don't remember.
I don't think we did. I think we planned to, and just timing fell through. But if we didn't record an episode, Matt and I certainly spent an episode's worth of time talking about the discourse surrounding Halloween Kills and the people struggling with whether they should rank it worse than Halloween Resurrection, which is just unfathomable to me. Because, and here I go, now I'll talk about what I liked about it. Because I thought that this was one of the most entertaining slasher movies in a long time. It was Michael Myers in one of the coolest looking costumes he's ever had. They get the look right, they get the feeling right, they get the Halloween-ness of it right. They revisited the 1978 version and shot additional material to do that. And then he's just killing people in brutal and scary ways. I think the message of the mob mentality was a little strange. I wasn't exactly sure who we were rooting for. Is the mob the January 6th folk? And if they're coming in, is Michael the good guy? But I want to root for Michael because he's the murderer. I think it's just about bad people and basically when someone as evil as Michael Myers, as the Shape, does this to a certain group of people, they kind of act outside of rational thought. My favorite aspect of Halloween Kills is that it both confirmed my theory about the 2018 version and then elevated it, doubled down on the idea that Laurie is a crazy person, right? She is the Shape that's haunting Haddonfield, right? She is standing off in the distance. You know, when Allison in 2018 is sitting in her classroom and looks out, it evokes that scene in the original 1978 Halloween where Laurie looks out and Michael is standing outside. But Allison, her granddaughter, looks outside and it's another shape. Is Laurie. And so she is the crazy person in this town ranting and raving who's been driven mad. This guy is coming back and he's coming to get me. And this movie, Halloween Kills, is a resounding nope. He's just going home. It's the night he came home and he just wants to continue to go home and nothing will get in his way of doing that. Listen, I am fully aware of the flaws of this movie. I get it. I saw them too, and I hear you and I see you on Twitter. Why would you bring an iron to kill a mass murderer, Michael Myers? Why didn't anybody shoot him in the head? Why? Like, do we hate Tommy Doyle? Like some of the dialogue, especially in the bar, is a little too on the nose. Is the movie a little too reliant on member berries? Is there not enough Laurie? Yes, of course, I hear all that stuff. But as a fan of Halloween, as a fan of a franchise that's not that good, and I'm willing to freely admit, as much as a classic as the original Halloween is, untouchable, unassailable, the greatest horror movie of all time. The sequels are to varying degrees of garbage. And this is a well-filmed, well-crafted, well-intentioned slasher movie featuring some of my favorite characters in all of cinema. I can't imagine how people didn't have fun with it, and I had a blast. There was no doubt going in that this would end up on my top 10, and I'm proud to say that it was in my top 5 in terms of an interesting film experience, a movie experience, and also a really, really fun time. It's easily, I will argue with you that it is a number 5 pick, at least if you're a Halloween fan. Why isn't it?
Well said. It's not on my list or honorable mentions, but I think it would be like number 15 or 16 or something.
Sure. I'll take that.
Yeah. A couple of things real quick. One, I do got to say it's no Season of the Witch.
Oh, Jesus.
Nor is it a Wes Craven's New Nightmare, that brilliant thing.
You know, Haddonfield really is a character in the movie.
And pizza really rescued me.
I want that to be such a theme throughout this next year of podcasts that I want to get to a point where at the end of the year, like I'm saying, listen, I don't want to over exaggerate the meaning of this. I know it's a cliche, but I really do think Miles Morales is a character in this movie.
I love it. I love it. But it was interesting. I was talking to Fecus about it in an episode, and he had mentioned how on the nose the mob mentality was and everything in regards to its criticism, I guess, of January 6th. But the movie was completed in
not just written, but filmed
and completed in 2020.
Happened. Yes.
Yeah. So I just found that interesting and everything, and I love the kind of Twitterverse, kind of like collectively asking, where was Tommy Doyle on January 6th?
Yeah.
I just love that so much.
Yeah, well, I think we know where he was.
Yeah.
I also think, I love Jamie Lee Curtis so much, a massive crush on Jamie Lee Curtis. But I think some of her press presence with especially Halloween Kills has been a little misguided. I think I might argue that like the January 6th connection or at least the thread that they've tied this movie to January 6th is a little misguided. I think then we're asked to root for bad people or to not root for people that maybe we should be because we kind of want Tommy to win. And I wonder how this movie would have been received if it were released last year in its original release date.
Yeah.
And we could kind of I'm all for looking at movies through certain lenses, but the fact of the matter is January 6th happened after this movie was finished. And so for them to like use that lens, especially in the promotion and press of this movie, is a little disingenuous and ultimately, I think, misguiding and troublesome for the movie.
That's really interesting. And I think we should have a longer conversation at some point. I do want us to do a commentary track for Halloween Kills, the extended edition, later this year. For
sure. Yeah.
Because I do have a commentary track with Halloween Kills on there.
I pre-ordered it.
Nice.
Well, I ordered it. It's arriving tomorrow.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Nice.
I'm excited.
Yeah. Tiny, any thoughts?
Yeah, I hate to say it, but it was like Halloween Kills was like one of my biggest disappointments of the year. I flat out didn't like it. I hate to disagree with you, Mike, but it's
no, that's okay.
So my biggest issue with it was actually not the mob stuff and all the semantic things. My biggest issue, I think the 2018 Halloween is one of the best in the franchise. I adored it, and I think the biggest strength of the franchise is the ability to harness and build and maintain tone, horror tone, and build up tone. That's the original movie is tonally one of the best movies ever made. And 2018 Halloween got damn close to that again. And Halloween Kills, it was a tonal disaster. It was an absolute mess when it comes to tone. And I just cannot forgive it for that. It felt so off to me. And I just, it completely missed the mark in that regard for me. And that's one of my favorite things about the franchise. And it just was almost non-existent in this movie. And that's what I couldn't get behind.
Let me offer a rebuttal.
Okay.
And consider that. And like, I don't think that I disagree with you. I think, I don't know that I'd go as far as calling it a mess because I did enjoy it. But I don't think that it matches the tone of the other movies. I agree with that. And I'll give you that. Okay. And I think early on it claims that. I mean, I think it's a little funnier than some of the other movies, intentionally so.
Yeah.
B, Michael Myers is a superhero with, the cement axe, the cement saw, just sawing through people. That's a different tone entirely. The reason I'm gonna like accept take your commentary, which I agree with, but then apply it, is what I think this movie is doing, and it's doing well so far, is it's asking, what does Halloween look like after Laurie Strode, right? The other movies did not really do a good job. They either are terrible after Laurie Strode or refuse to separate themselves from Laurie Strode. And this one is saying, okay, I think we're putting an end to the Laurie Strode situation. If Laurie Strode is not the center of Michael's attention, what happens to the town? What does Michael do? And so that's why I think David Gordon Green is saying, I think we need to change the tone a little bit. I don't think it's the same movie as Halloween 18 anymore. I don't think it's the same tone. And so maybe I'm just making excuses for a movie that I liked and you didn't like, which is fair. But I'll kind of buy it as like they're making a step away with respect to Laurie Strode, a step away from Laurie Strode.
Okay. That's fair. That's actually, I hadn't considered that. That's a good point. I also think it kind of answers the question. There's always these fans of the franchise have these hypotheticals like, why don't they just get a posse together and go fight this dude and shoot him? And this answers that question, and it presents it in a way that it's not as satisfying as people think it would be.
Because people are stupid.
Right. People think that's what they want, but they really don't want that. That doesn't make it a good movie.
Yeah.
When a posse going after Michael and shooting him down and murdering him is not a good movie. And it answers that question. So I do respect it for that. That's one thing I liked about it. So yeah, it was a very polarizing movie for sure.
For sure. Polarizing to say the least.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Nice.
Tiny, your number 5?
Yes. My number 5 is The Power of the Dog.
Interesting.
On Netflix. Yeah. That's how I watched it anyways. So the first act of this movie, I was so not on board with this movie. I watched it in 2 sittings. I watched it like the first act and then the rest of it in a different time. It was, man, the first act is just very disjointed, and I'm not sure where they were going. But then in the second act and the rest of the movie really just, it finds its stride. A lot of people describe it as a slow burn, which is accurate as hell. I agree with that. But it also taps into the concept of toxic masculinity that I was talking about earlier. And it's a theme that's presented itself in a lot of art that I've been watching lately. And this is a very satisfactory version of it. Because again, the most toxic character is very off-putting. It's an incredible performance from Benedict Cumberbatch. I adore that man. He's one of my favorite actors right now, and this is one of his best performances for sure. And the character is off-putting and terrible and you know, annoying. So many different adjectives. But the way that character folds into the ultimate plot of the movie is really fascinating, and I love the direction it goes. I love kind of some of the sort of role reversals of some of the characters. The character arcs are just really, really fascinating. It's incredibly well written from a structure and a dialogue standpoint. I thought it was very, very creative. And just so well done. And I was really surprised at how much I ended up liking it, because I think it's, you know, initially I almost like didn't come back to it the next day because I was just so off put by the first act. I was like, what is happening? It's that goofy, but man, it just really finds its stride and turns into an incredible commentary on, you know, perceptions and attitudes and masculinity and gender roles, any kind of role, really, marriage, family, all kinds of different themes.
Dinner rolls.
Nice.
Pizza rolls.
Sweet.
Pizza rolls.
Yum. But no, it's a really unique and brilliant movie. I was kind of blown away by it, and I really want to watch it again. I think it's one of those movies that'll be even better the second time around, because I kind of know what to look for in the first act now, and now that I kind of know what happens. But I highly recommend the movie. It's really brilliant.
Nice. I wasn't too crazy about it myself, but I will say one of Benedict Cumberbatch's best performances. Just hard stop.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And Mike, you haven't gotten a chance to see?
No, that's pretty high up on my movies I missed list.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Cool.
Well, my number 5 is The Green Knight. And I've got to say, just indulge me for just a second, Mike, when you were talking about it, how you don't like fantasy and everything and long drawn out journeys and everything.
Sure.
The entire time I was thinking about how before we started recording, you told us that you started reading The Gunslinger.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. But there are like elements of The Green Knight that remind me just so much of The Dark Tower. It is seriously it's a visual feast, but it's this just mesmerizing like fantasy, just weird thing. And like I don't know the story of Gawain.
Gawain and the
Gawain.
Yeah.
Did not know that. So when the Green Knight appears, I'm like, what is happening? Like I didn't know the plot or anything. And that was probably another special theater viewing, because I did not see it in theaters when it was first run, but around Christmas time they showed it in theaters again. And I was like, I'm going to see it, and just so happy to have seen it in a theater because it is visually just stunning. Like it's kind of similar in a weird way, kind of similar to Licorice Pizza. It's kind of a collection of vignettes or steps of his journey, and each one is just immaculately and like just amazingly represented. Like that sequence where he sees like the giants was breathtaking to me.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely breathtaking.
Definitely.
Yeah, and the themes that it plays with like you said, Mike, like heroism and kind of honor and duty and like following through on things. It's such an interesting story, and Dev Patel does like a lot of like silent acting, like you said, but I think really this movie is very much a showcase for David Lowery and in the production and the cinematography of it as well. It's a stunning movie. I can't wait to see it again. But that's The Green Knight. That's my number 5. Really good stuff.
Nice.
Yeah. Mike, do you want to bring us into your top to bring us into our top 4?
Our top 4, yeah.
Yes.
So my number 4 to begin is James Wan's Malignant. And I have been a James Wan fanatic since Saw. I think he doesn't just have his finger on the pulse of horror. He is the heartbeat of it every couple of years. He just comes up with such new ways to innovate and reinvigorate with the obvious and telling and prideful look back at the history of horror. So, he gave us Saw, which is about tension and, it's a detective story with the gore. And then he came around again and gave us Insidious, which is, demonic and family. And then you get The Conjuring, and he's like, I can still do this. I'm going to show you a period piece. I'm going to go back to the 70s. I'm going to show you, I'm going to influence an entire genre for the next decade in slow build tension and horror, not outright scares, but I'm going to do it again. And then they're like, okay, well, what will James Wan do next? And he said, hold on a second. I'm going to go do a Fast and Furious movie. Hold on a second. I'm going to go do Aquaman. And they're like, James Wan, what are you up to, man? We need some horror. And he said, have you guys ever heard of Giallo? An Italian Giallo, because I'm going to make one and I'm going to reintroduce it to America in a way that Brian De Palma wishes he could have done in the 80s. Malignant is so much fun. It was another one. I didn't want to mention it in my favorite movie experiences, but it was just a movie where we were laughing with glee because, early on there's like some questionable acting. And for a second, my friend Jake and I were like, whoa. Is this a bad movie? There was something about, the opening credits that were incredibly 90s thriller inspired where I was like, oh, this is cheesy. And I don't know if I'm into it yet. And, but James Wan knows he's leaning in. He's already leaning into it. And by the time they show the house and there's fog rolling in and there's these spots of red, which are signatures of the Giallo style of horror, I know I'm like, oh, I get it. James Wan gets it. Things are red. The killer has black gloves. It's a mystery. He is reintroducing a genre that I guarantee you will be maybe not so much in the way that, social conscious horror, the way that Jordan Peele is doing it. Like, I think Nope is going to be super popular this year, but I think we're going to get a weird, trippy, Italian inspired, 90s inspired slasher mind screws like Malignant gave us. Performances that seem like they're terrible, but I'm just going to give the credit to James Wan and say that he knows it's supposed to be over the top. It's a soap opera with a knife.
Yes.
And then you get to the end, which just is bonkers. And there's the prison sequence. And when you find out the killer and the villain, it is just balls to the wall, insane. And you just, at that point, like, if you aren't trusting James Wan, if you aren't trusting the experience of the movie that you're watching, I don't think that you'll like it. Like, I imagine my students just like this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. But if you're into it and you know a little bit of the history of horror and you know a little bit of James Wan and you understand that he has seen all the movies and he wants you to have seen all the movies and he's going to show you an experience, a different version of a thing that you might have never seen before in his way, in the James Wan way, it's like you're just in good hands and you're along for the ride. You're on the roller coaster and the lap belt is James Wan soft. And he's just saying, watch this. I'm going to show you some stuff. It's going to be wild. I had so much fun watching Malignant. There's an alternate universe where it could be in the top 3, but I'm pretty satisfied calling it a clear number 4.
Nice.
Sweet.
Well freaking said.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
Yeah, it's not on my list, but it is maybe one of the most fun movies I saw this year. Yeah, and it's funny, like I would like go and listen to my Spider-Man No Way Home review with Fecus, because I think in that episode I asked him like, well, you know, what are some of your favorite movies from the year? And then I think I either mentioned Malignant or he did, and he's like, that is like the worst movie I saw all year.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I guess. I don't know. People like what they like and don't like what they don't like. And I hate to be so pretentious and douchey to say that somebody didn't get it, but I think that James Wan either wants you to get it or not.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't mean to like claim to be above Fecus and his interpretation of the movie. If you didn't like it, you didn't like it. That's totally fine. And I respect that. Tiny, I respect that you didn't like Halloween Kills. But I don't think James Wan cares if Fecus didn't like it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I totally get what you mean.
Right? With respect to Fecus, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
He made the movie for you and guys like you, Mike.
Exactly.
Not Fecus. Yeah, totally.
Right.
I get what you're
exactly.
saying. Yeah. I didn't get a chance to see it.
Interesting.
I think it was another movie that was kind of mismarketed because I saw the trailer a ton of times, but I feel like I didn't know what the hell the movie was about.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, but you've really piqued my interest with your review, so I definitely want to see it.
Yeah,
I think you'll like it.
I think I will too.
Watch it Shocktober.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with this subgenre, the Italian.
Yeah, the
I'm
giallo.
not familiar with that.
Yeah, giallo movies. So they're kind of like the proto slasher movies. They're kind of like pre-slashers. So a lot of people know, or maybe don't know, I don't know. Friday the 13th is kind of a direct ripoff of a movie called Bay of Blood. And so they're a director. Bay of Blood is directed by Mario Bava. And then there's also Dario Argento, who directed Suspiria, is probably his most popular. That's not really a giallo. But yeah, they're like these classic tropes. It's kind of like, old detective movies in the 40s and 50s where like, there's the damsel in distress and comes into the office and like he's wearing the top hat. So giallo movies have similar tropes. Like there's always a black glove. The red is always like super high contrast against black backdrops. There's always a mystery, like a man dressed in black. There's always a knife, and he's always killing beautiful women. And so American directors saw those movies and started making slasher movies, right? So like, we go back and say Psycho is one of the original slashers, and then like Halloween is the godfather of like the slasher craze, but they're really all kind of influenced by Mario Bava and Dario Argento and these early proto slashers, these giallo movies.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I'm definitely intrigued then. Okay.
Nice. Tiny, what is your number 4?
Yes, you both have already talked about it. It's The Green Knight.
Nice.
My number 4.
Awesome.
I'm really glad that you both talked about it first because Mike, I liked how you mentioned how it's this movie is liked by a lot of people for stuff that you don't necessarily focus on, like the visuals and the cinematography doesn't always jump out to you. You said that. Well, I'm glad you said that first because that kind of stuff does jump out to me. To tend to hyperfixate on visuals a lot of the time, and even a movie that's got some other aspects about it that aren't great, maybe bad writing or not the best acting, if it's got stunning visuals, I can usually find a way to really enjoy the movie. And The Green Knight, thankfully, is not just that. It's got so many great things working for it, but I think the visuals and the themes are what jumped out to me the most in this movie. It's really incredible. I loved the kind of the epicness of it. It reminded me a lot of, like, I know it's like a Knight of the Round Table kind of medieval story in that regard, but it really reminded me of like the Odyssey, where he kind of has these vignettes, like Matt said, where he bumps into this kind of character and has this kind of interaction, and he bumps into like a kind of a ghostly character, and kind of the thieves and the king and the lord and his wife and stuff like that, and he has these unique experiences with all these different characters. It really made me think of the Odyssey, and I love it. It had a very epic feel to it because of those things, the epic journey kind of story. Of course, I enjoyed Dev Patel a lot, but to me, the standout was Alicia Vikander. I'm a huge fan of hers anyways. I love her and everything. But I kind of loved the dual roles she played. She was really good. And I also like the part that you mentioned, Mike, how it has sort of kind of some horror undertones to it.
For sure.
At the very least, there's some disturbing parts that I think are definitely horror feeling. And I loved some of those parts. There's a sex scene later, kind of towards the end of the second act, almost right before the third act, with Alicia Vikander, that's like kind of disturbing. And it's like one of the parts that really jumped out to me, and I thought it was just disturbing is the word that keeps coming to mind. And I really appreciated the way it was crafted, and it was well done. But I'm not really I'm not familiar at all with Sir Gawain. I had never really heard of him or anything. I'm not intrigued by the Knights of the Round Table and Sword in the Stone stories. They don't appeal to me at all. I don't think they're bad or anything. It's just never been my cup of tea. But this retelling was really just updated for like a 21st century audience, I guess, is how I would explain it. And so many great visuals, camera work, just a really beautiful color palette of a movie, and I was pretty blown away by it. It's a good one.
Nice.
Yeah,
very cool.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it again.
Nice. Yeah.
All right, so now it's to me.
Yes, sir.
Mine number 4 is another movie that I don't know if a lot of people had a chance to see, but it was at Heartland and a couple other film festivals. It is Celine Sciamma's Petite Maman. French film. Celine Sciamma made Portrait of a Lady on Fire, which a couple years ago I adored. This is her next film. It is absolutely just it's so unique. It is the story of this young girl who loses her grandmother, and it's her and her parents going to her grandmother's house to clear out the house. And what happens after that is she plays in the woods, and through just this, like, it's I'll go ahead and say it. It, like, Petite Maman means small mother, and she meets, like, in the woods, she meets basically her mother at her age, and she strikes up a friendship with her mother. And it's so interesting because it's like a science fiction kind of story, but there's, like, that is not, it's just played completely straight. There's no hangups of like, how is this possible? What is this? But it is just a straightforward thing of this little girl talking to her mother while, like, the version of her mother when she's her age. And what it does is it presents this just incredible way to there's an incredible way that the movie bridges that generational divide between mother and daughter through the dialogue in that. And it is just amazing the way that it plays out. There are incredible conversations that these two little girls have with each other. as mother and daughter. And it's just so interesting to see them communicate with each other while being like the same age. It's not like her mother like shrunk down to being like an 8-year-old or something, but it's just like this mystical kind of thing. And that is the complete point of the entire narrative. There's not like a flashy, like, oh, how are we going to, like, how is this happening? Or how can we get back? Or how can I get back to there? It's just like, it is the focal point is the grief and the lack of understanding that these two people in their lives have with each other, and how this experience teaches them how to communicate with each other. And there are moments, like there are lines that like just send chills down my spine, because it is so cathartic and so cathartic is the best word I can use to describe it, because it is these characters realizing like what, like breaking down the defenses and breaking down the, like I said, the generational divide between them, and just talking as people and understanding the intricacies of a rough relationship and the grief of losing the grandmother as well. It's really, really amazing. It's like 72 minutes, but it packs so much into it, and it is just a beautiful, beautiful movie. So it's Petite Maman, which I will be remiss if I didn't say that on Patreon and anywhere that I say it, I have taken to referring to it as Petite Maman. So it's Petite Maman. Loved it. My number 4, a fantastic movie.
Sweet.
Yeah. Mike, top 3.
Yeah, so my number 3 is Nia DaCosta's Candyman.
Nice.
Co-written and produced by Jordan Peele, directed and co-written by Nia DaCosta. And I'm a sucker for a legacy sequel. And I apologize if that's a spoiler. I think it's in the trailers.
Yeah, I think you're good.
That this is a continuation of the story. It's an expanding of the mythology of Candyman, which is a movie I love. It's one of my favorite horror movies. One of the top 3 horror movies, I think, of the 90s. Behind,
Nice.
Of course, Scream, which is just the godfather of all 90s horror slashers. But I love Candyman. I love all things Chicago. I love that it's set in Chicago and Cabrini Green. And so it takes a lot of what we know from the original version from the 90s and inverts it. I don't want to say subverts it, inverts it. So like, the opening scene of the original is it's the city of Chicago by helicopter downtown, and then this movie opens with it's like shot upside down, and you're like looking up at the skyscrapers from the ground up, and it's just saying that we're going to look at this from a different aspect. It checks off so many things on like what a good legacy sequel should do. It reconfigures what Candyman means, who Candyman is. And when I say legacy sequel, there is a legacy of Candyman that this movie kind of reconfigures and resituates our understanding of what that character is, which I loved so much. It offers characters we know from before and kind of gives us new understanding of those characters. And then it says, now that the past is the past, we're going to offer you a new look at that character, which this movie does at the end. In the same way that the original Candyman is not just a really good social comment. Well, it's a horror movie with social undertones, but it is about a white woman. This one is about Black people and a Black man struggling and living in an area that is now gentrified. And how do they feel as Black people in a formerly underprivileged Black community that has now been gentrified, and they're kind of reaping the benefits of that. So that social commentary is there, and it's important, but it's also really scary. There are some excellent moments of violence. And then it does, like I said, the original movie is a tragedy, and this movie is also a tragedy. And so the legacy of Candyman is like in conversation with each other. So there's a bit of a moment at the end. I think that you would call it like a hero shot. Not to say that Candyman is a hero, but like to show your your main figure of interest in a shot. There's a hero shot that is at once the continuation of the legacy of the history of Candyman, and also a tragic ending of this particular movie or this particular iteration of Candyman. So, I kind of waffled back and forth about which one to put higher, Malignant or Candyman. And I just feel like Candyman is maybe the safer movie to put at number 3. Like, the end of Malignant is so bonkers. I don't know that, like, I loved it, and arguably, but I don't know that a movie that you have to make some excuses for, like a movie that's not for everybody, if you have to choose between the two, I don't know that it's as good as the movie that I think is for everybody. I think Candyman is for a wider audience and has a lot to say to that audience. But it's I hate to use the word safer, but it makes a little more sense as a number 3. I really enjoyed it. The score was excellent, and I love the resituation of the Candyman mythos while also giving you a spooky movie. It was a good deaths, good kills. It was gross.
Yeah.
Some of the makeup work toward the end of the movie was really impressive.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I really liked Candyman. And did we review it? We did. That was a really good episode.
We did.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. Awesome.
I didn't see it. I've never seen the original either. I'd like to.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, they're good. Yeah, for sure.
Nice.
Recommend. Tiny, your number 3.
My number 3 is Dune.
Nice.
Yeah. So this was my most hyped movie of the year. It was my most hyped movie of last year, and it didn't come out last year. We talked about it quite a bit earlier, back in October when we got to see it. We had an episode about it, so reference that episode for my full thoughts on it. I won't talk about it too much here, but the visuals of what Frank Herbert wrote down back in 1965 have been bouncing around my head for the better part of a decade, and what the movie from the 80s just didn't achieve those visuals and was a bit of a failure in a lot of ways. And so I feel like I haven't had the proper visual outlet for this story since I first read it 10, 12 years ago. And like I said, those visuals have just been bouncing around my head and my imagination for a long time. And I got extra excited to see them 3 years ago when this movie was announced that Denis Villeneuve was doing it. And so I feel like I've been waiting forever to see Arrakis and to see the Empire and to see what a Mentat looks like, and to see what Denis Villeneuve's interpretation of a maker or a worm would look like. I've wanted to see these things. The visuals have been my strongest desire, and finally it came this year, and it actually exceeded what my puny little imagination could come up with compared to Denis Villeneuve. And it was even better than I thought it was going to be. It really blew me away. I loved everything about it. I think the casting was perfect. I think the visuals were next level, ideal visuals. I mentioned one thing that I don't know if other people felt, but there were sort of kind of like Mike was saying about The Green Knight. There were kind of like horror undertones in this movie. I thought some of the characters and settings and ideas were flat out horrific and scary, and that never came across to me when I was reading the books. And that's something that Denis Villeneuve was able to achieve that is a new level in this franchise. And I thought it was just brilliant in so many different ways. I fully agree with the criticism that both Matt and Mike mentioned, that it was a very abrupt ending and it's kind of half a movie. I fully agree with that. It made me think a lot of like the first Lord of the Rings movie. I remember seeing that and just thinking, what? They just stopped the story? And I kind of felt the same way with this, but I was so satisfied with the rest of the movie. It really didn't affect me that much. It was my number one for a long time, and it could easily be my number one. Still, I think these top three are kind of interchangeable, but I absolutely adore Dune. I think Denis Villeneuve, if he gets to do a full trilogy or 4 or 5, however many movies he wants to do, I think he's going to continue to blow us away with Frank Herbert's vision, and I am so excited for it. So, yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool.
Sweet.
Nice. My number 3 is one I'm not going to talk much about because I talked about it ad nauseum last month. Spider-Man No Way Home is my number 3.
Nice.
Just a quick rundown of it. I adored it. I was so taken by like not even the nostalgia of it, but the catharsis of it. Like the way that it handled so many things that would in lesser hands be fan service and be something that is just flashy and everything. Because it is a huge concept, and the things that they do with the multiverse. This is the MCU, the first MCU multiverse movie, and the things that they do with that could have easily been hokey or tongue in cheek or just for nostalgia, like the member berries thing.
Right.
But what it did was create this incredibly cathartic and funny and sad character arc for several characters. And the way that the villains are handled, the way that it subverts our expectations for comic book movies is just so great and feels so at home with a Peter Parker story. Like, especially this version, this naive kid who wants to do the right thing and often does dumb things in the pursuit of doing the right thing because he's a kid. It is just absolutely amazing. And I just can't get over just how perfect that is. How perfect the presentation of this movie was. It's just it was such a joy, such a crowd pleaser with so much heart and so many implications for the MCU going forward and for Spider-Man. I loved it. Spider-Man No Way Home, my number 3.
Nice.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about that movie later.
Me too. Me too.
Not next. It's not going to be the next movie that I talk about, but I will talk about that movie.
Nice.
No surprise there.
Nice. What movie are you going to talk about?
Yeah, so my number 2, which you had already mentioned, was Coda. And I watched that movie early on in the year. It was an Apple movie, and gosh, for all of the same reasons. And I know we tend to get here to our top movies and it feels like we're kind of repeating a lot of the same things, but I kind of like that we feel the same way about a lot of these movies. In a difficult year for me, emotionally, mentally, I don't know, spiritually. I'm not a spiritual person, but in my connection to the universe, I had a tough time. I really latched on to movies that affected me emotionally, especially in a positive way. There was like a Spider-Man comic event this year that ended in a really satisfying way. And like, I got choked up, like explaining it to my friend at work the next day, and he and I like to kind of deduce why we do certain things, why we behave certain ways. And it was fun to talk about, like, I just need happiness. sometimes. And Coda was just so happy and impactful and emotional. And, all the things you said, the performances are amazing, newcomers and really a cast of mostly newcomers. At least not, super famous people.
Yeah.
Gave real baked in performances, a family that seems real, seems genuine. They have a history that we're not privy to, but we kind of learn over time and we see it as the events play out. It could so easily have been a kind of a stereotypical and cliche melodrama about like this girl that's just got to get out and her family holds her back. But by throwing in the aspect that they're the deaf, there's a wrench in the machine that's really intriguing and interesting. The two moments you said where you got choked up, I mean, I was full on, like, there's a moment of silence, and in that silence, my wife and I, like, the sound was us going,
yeah,
because it was so perfect and so expertly crafted.
Mm-hmm.
One more thing before I throw it to Tiny about this movie is my favorite character in the movie is the father,
Mm-hmm.
and he so easily could have been written as this demanding, frustrated father who's like, we need your help. You have to stay. Quit chasing your crazy dreams. And he is never angry at his daughter.
Right.
He never refuses to understand where she's coming from. And it's just the most real, real in for positive families. It's just one of the most loving fathers you could watch in that scenario. And it really could have been cliche. He could have been angry. He could have fought with her. He could have yelled at her, and he doesn't. And there's the moment where kind of there's a cliche moment where they're like counting on her to do a thing and she doesn't show up. I'm not trying to spoil it, but like she doesn't show up and he doesn't, how do I explain it? His anger is that she like ignored responsibilities, not that she was chasing some fleeting dream and that you need to quit all that because you're ridiculous. He, like a logical, rational human being, is like, you promised me you would be there and you didn't. And for that, I'm disappointed. It was so real and so earned that when you're watching this journey of this family and these characters that seem baked in and honest and real, that when you get that catharsis at the end, I think it hits even deeper.
Yeah.
Such a fantastic movie. I don't know why we're always so cheeky about what our number ones are going to be.
Yeah.
Like it's in the show notes and you can kind of guess by now, but I will say until December, until the week before Christmas, Coda was my number one movie of the year because it was so fantastic. And I have been excited to talk about this movie, which we did review. So, I did more detail about that, but I loved Coda so much. And number two, easily.
Nice. Awesome.
Man, I need to see that one.
Yeah. How about your number two, Tiny?
My number two is Nightmare Alley.
Nice.
By Guillermo del Toro's latest. I don't have a ton to say about it, but I will reference when I was watching it. I was messaging Matt and I told him I'm kind of proud of the phrase I came up with. I guess I said that Guillermo del Toro just has a conduit to my soul.
Nice. That's awesome.
He just speaks to me. I really appreciate his filmmaking. He just hits it out of the park visually. His character work I adore. He's just a really great filmmaker. Nightmare Alley has, again, one of the best casts of the year. Yeah. I love the cast. Bradley Cooper, Cate Blanchett, Toni Collette, Willem Dafoe, Richard Jenkins, Rooney Mara, Ron Perlman, David Strathairn, and Mary Steenburgen. Incredible cast in this movie. And that's just one of the great things about this movie. I love the time setting again, kind of I don't want to say golden age of carnivals, but like kind of the peak of carnival, because carnivals are pretty gross. Kind of a disturbing part of entertainment history. But they're also very fascinating. And I'm fascinated by that kind of subgenre, or that the concept of carnivals and stuff like that. Carny lifestyle is very interesting to me, and this is one of the coolest Carny movies I've seen in a long time. Carny stories, I guess. I also think it has a really cool structure to it. It's almost like a 2-act movie. There are 3 acts for sure, but there's kind of a big jump. The setup is my favorite part of the movie. But it's there's kind of like a big jump where they jump to the next part, and I think some people might find it jarring or not really appreciate it, but I thought it was an interesting creative choice, and I think it worked for the movie. But mostly there's just incredible performances. I love the visuals. I mean, there's just everything. Great costuming, incredible sets. There's not a lot of like CGI in this. There's a lot of like really fancy, glamorous Art Deco sets that I just love that style and that time period. It's so fascinating. And to see Guillermo del Toro live in that setting was just peak awesome for me. So yeah, really cool movie. I think it's maybe a little bit mixed reviews from a lot of critics and a lot of people on this, but like I said, me and Guillermo del Toro are best friends who've never met, so definitely recommend this one. Nice.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I didn't put it on any of my lists, but I enjoyed it.
Nice.
Yeah. My number 2 is Come On, Come On by Mike Mills.
Nice.
For all the reasons Tiny mentioned, he spoke very eloquently about it. So I really was taken with the style of this movie and the way that it has Joaquin Phoenix's character interacting with just random children. There's those breaks of talking heads where he is doing his documentary stuff, and asking them for what they think the future holds and everything. And it also just reminds me of a funny air quotes, tweet that's like, that was like, kids these days be saying, when I grow up, bro, it's 70 degrees in December. You're not growing up. But I think that Joaquin Phoenix and Woody Norman are just absolutely amazing. And the way that the movie handles family dysfunction and the notion of human relationships, and again, it's another example of a great movie that has like this generational divide, that he's interacting with his nephew that he doesn't really understand all that well, and they're skating around this very serious family drama and family thing involving his Woody Norman's character's father, who's having kind of a mental breakdown, and that's why he is with Joaquin Phoenix through the movie. And just the way that the movie demonstrates that and interconnects it with how children having this running thing of what children view, or what the next generation sees for the future for themselves, sees of the future for themselves, interconnected with Woody Norman's character and Joaquin Phoenix having this, not even adventure, just this life together where they're bonding and they're interacting with each other, is really, really good.
Nice.
No, I was really taken with it, and I really loved it. And the way that the kid kind of interprets and reacts to the very serious situation that his family's in, it's an interesting kind of showcase of the way children react and interpret like things that are outside of their knowledge base because they're kids.
Yeah. It felt genuine.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's my number 2. It's Come On, and I loved it.
Nice.
Now I am going to take a guess that both you guys have the same number 1.
We do.
How do you guys want to handle it? Do you want me to just say my number 1 and then you guys have the floor for number 1?
That's fine.
Would that make sense?
I don't care.
Yeah, that's interesting. Sure.
Yeah.
Let me say before we do our number 1s that Tiny and I are going to talk about a movie that Matt has already talked about, which is an official Obsessive viewer pick for our top movies of the year. The only other 2 official pick for our top movies of the year are Dune and The Green Knight. So there are 3 movies this year on our collective, the official stamp of Obsessive viewer approval. That's Dune, The Green Knight, and the movie that Tiny and I are about to talk about.
Right.
Sweet.
Wow. That's awesome. It's Ninja, baby.
Yeah.
But I'll go ahead and talk about my number 1 real quick if you guys are cool with that.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right. So my number 1 is Fran Kranz's directorial debut, written and directed, Mass.
Nice.
I rewatched this today. It was at Heartland Film Festival and it's got some acclaim. I think it might be kind of lost in the shuffle of award season, but it is just a powerhouse of a movie. And it's so simplistic, so straightforward. It's just 4 people in a room talking, for the most part. But the way that it's handled, like the thing that I kept thinking about while rewatching it today is that the idea that film is a director's medium. Theater is an actor's medium. Television is a writer's medium. What Frank Kranz has done with Mass is he has taken a director's medium and applied just very, very sharp, intelligent, wonderfully constructed writing. Like the way that the movie divulges information and information about the event that's at the center of this is so powerful, and it doesn't hold our hand. It doesn't set up. It doesn't do anything flashy. It doesn't do any flashbacks like Tiny said. It doesn't do anything heavy with that. It's all in the dialogue and it's all organic. So he does that, and then he gives the floor to 4 amazing performers to play out this drama like it's a stage play. And it's like you can tell that this is by the hand of an actor because he gives them so much to work with and so much. There's this visceral feel. There's a moment about an hour into the movie where Jason Isaacs, he has like this outburst that has been building throughout the entire movie. And it, like, just thinking about it sends chills down my spine. And like, just thinking about it, like, I rewound it when I rewatched it today. And like, it is so powerful and so emotional, but none of them are the lead. It's an ensemble piece, and they all have their own, not even agenda, but they all have their own way that the characters have dealt with this tragedy that they are confronting. And just the central concept that it's 2 families or 2 couples that are meeting years after an incident in which one couple's son murdered another couple's son. And that is the kind of thing that tethers them together. And the way that the information is recounted and the way that the drama is, it's done with such a character focus, and it is so focused on that and the character interactions that I'm just blown away by all 4 of the central performances. Just incredible. And there's an interesting thing that I don't understand per se. I don't necessarily understand, but that first like 45 minutes to an hour building up toward that outburst, that's like one of the few times where the screen goes black, cuts to a shot that kind of separates some of the acts, sort of. But after that, the aspect ratio changes significantly. So like it's a much wider aspect ratio for that first hour. And then when we get that cut, it's a black screen, and then it goes to the exterior shot. And then it goes back to the room, and it's a more conventional, like 16:9, like widescreen. aspect ratio. I don't understand that. I want to say, I don't know. If for all I know, it could be that Frank Kranz didn't have the right lens until halfway through production or something. I don't know. But to me, it kind of feels like this tension that this has been, up until that point, it has been this just incredible, like four-hander among these four actors, and then now we're in the meat of it. Now we're in the drama of it, and they're really reconciling what has happened and everything. I don't know, but it is just an absolute stunner of a movie, and it is so powerful. Some of the best performances I've seen in this year or in recent years. Just absolutely amazing. And that's Mass. And it's an emotionally devastating and emotionally draining experience.
Yeah.
But it is so well done. I love it so much.
Awesome. I love that that's your number one pick.
Nice.
Great pick. Yeah.
Awesome.
For sure.
Nice. Also, I do have to mention that I feel like 2021 was the year of Mass, because Mass is my number one movie.
Oh, Midnight Mass.
Mass. And also the Mass Effect trilogy re-release came out. So covered all my bases. So that's my number one, Mass. And I will yield the floor to your guys' number one movie of 2021. And I'm trying to think of a jokey answer, but I don't know.
Tiny, do you want me to go, or do you want me to have the last word? How do you want to
go? Yeah, you can go ahead, Mike. Yeah.
Okay. Man, where do I even begin with Spider-Man No Way Home? I feel like I get on this podcast and I have these bombastic reaction to movies that mean the world to me. And I go on these rants and these passionate rants. And I will say I have not reviewed Spider-Man No Way Home anywhere. So this is me going off the cuff and really trying to verbalize some of the things I've said to other people over time, and I'll try to condense it. I could talk for an hour about what Spider-Man No Way Home means to me, but I'm going to try to keep it as condensed as possible. Well, there was no question this was going to be my favorite movie of the year. I knew it coming out. The hype for it was through the roof. You know, when I talked about Avengers Endgame, the way I did when that movie came out, about how it's a roller coaster experience and it's a theme park and it's like going to a theme park. And if you go to the movies to have an experience, to sit with an audience and hear them cheer and hear them laugh and hear them cry, how could you not say Spider-Man was the most fun thing that you did all year? Certainly not. And you have to admit that it's the most fun thing you did in a theater all year was see Spider-Man No Way Home. So Spider-Man is by far my favorite superhero, and not even just my favorite superhero, but one of my favorite intellectual properties. I have been a Spider-Man fan as long as I can remember, from the animated series as a kid to comics when I was a little bit older, to the 2002 Sam Raimi movie, to the sequel, to the third one, to the Andrew Garfield pictures, and then to a lesser extent the Tom Holland versions, though I've always appreciated his contributions to the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the Spider-Man mythology. What Spider-Man No Way Home does is take all those things that I love about the character and different interpretations on the character and give them back to me in such a satisfying and cathartic interpretation that to me the movie just feels undeniable. It was so much fun and so important to me at the same time. Again, like I said, I just craved happy moments throughout the year watching whatever movie. And this had some of the happiest I can think of watching any movies for someone who loves emotional beats, who loves redemption stories, who loves catharsis, and who ultimately loves comic books and loves, to an even greater extent, Spider-Man. It gave me exactly what I wanted to see from a Spider-Man movie. And we're not doing spoilers, are we, Matt?
No, I guess not. But I mean, everyone's seen it, so
I'd say no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Say don't do spoilers.
Yeah, don't do spoilers.
Okay,
Yeah.
avoid them. I'll avoid them, and it makes it a little difficult to talk about it. But there. So I'll focus on what won't be spoiled, and what this movie does is this character who has now had the like has represented the character of Spider-Man more than any other person in a movie, Tom Holland. This is his sixth appearance.
Oh yeah,
One,
that's
two,
a good
three,
point.
four, five. His sixth appearance.
Yep.
As the character. One of my complaints has been he has always been, under the tutelage of a certain character. It's always been Tony Stark, or under the shadow of Tony Stark, and then to a different extent or to a different degree, it was Mysterio in the second one, while the shadow of the grave of Tony Stark loomed large. I never got the sense that Tom Holland was my Spider-Man. I never got the sense that he was the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. He was the Civil War. He was Tony Stark's sidekick. This movie, in a new and different and ultimately crazily satisfying way, like I said, it rewrote the mythos. So if it offered multiverse as an option, this version of the character now, 6 movies later, has his origin story. He is now the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. There are other characters in the movie who tell him, this is why you do what you do. This is finally now why you're Spider-Man. You fought the Vulture early on because you had to, and you just thought it would be a rad experience to be a Spider-Man in a world where superheroes exist. And the second one, you were looking for that father figure again that you lost in Tony Stark, and you're trying to figure out responsibility and what you do with it. But when it really comes down to doing the right thing at the expense of yourself and the people you love, will you do the right thing? Which is at the core of Spider-Man. They do what they do because it's at their core from the people who taught them the values. It's why I think Spider-Man is the best character, is those values that he has. You do the right thing at all costs, and we finally have a reason for Spider-Man to do it. It was also really cool. The CGI was fun. Awesome fight scenes. Alfred Molina was really cool. To see Willem Dafoe give his all is fantastic. And then there, of course, the bits that we all know about, but out of the safety of spoilers, I won't say, were so unbelievably satisfying that I'm getting chills thinking about them now. And there's a redemption for a character that I found so cathartic and such a payoff for that character that I just I broke down in the theater watching the scene because it was so effective and it was so important to me. Again, I've used this phrase so many times, but when my favorite of the movies of the year do this, I have to call them number one. Spider-Man No Way Home is another example of why I love movies so much and why I love going to the movies. Is undoubtedly my number one.
Awesome.
Nice. Well said.
Nice.
Yep. Tiny.
Well,
you're number one.
Yeah. My number one is Spider-Man No Way Home. And I'm so glad you went first, Mike, because you are a huge reason as to why this is my number one.
Oh, that's cool.
Well,
awesome.
I want to go back to 2019 with Avengers Endgame, because a lot of the stuff you just said about Spider-Man No Way Home is literally word for word the same stuff you said about Avengers Endgame.
Mm-hmm,
and I agree with you 100%. Back in 2019, my number one movie was 1917. Mm-hmm. I stand by that wholeheartedly.
Good movie. Good movie. Yes.
My number two was Avengers Endgame, but I remember when you announced your number one, you said those words. You said that this is the best time that anybody had in a theater was Avengers Endgame in 2019. And if you say you said something I'm paraphrasing, but you said something along the lines of, if you say that this was not the best time you had in the movie theater in 2019, you're lying to yourself. And I remember listening to you say that, and I was like, God damn it, he's right. Again, I wouldn't change my 2019 list, but I think you were right back then, and I think you were right this year. And so I was trying to decide between my top three, between Nightmare Alley, Dune, and Spider-Man, and I was like, you know what? Mike was right then, and he's especially right in 2021 with Spider-Man. I'm going to put Spider-Man as my number one movie. And
nice.
The reason is because it was the best time I had in a movie theater this year, to quote Mike. And it was the best time I had with any movie this year. And it's interesting because I have had a sort of distant relationship with Spider-Man, because back in 2002, the Tobey Maguire trilogy, I could not reconcile my dislike for Tobey Maguire with those movies.
Yeah, I remember this.
And it's kind of bullshit, because it was me being a douchebag teenager. Because I still don't like Tobey Maguire, but he's really not that bad. I mean, hey, it was kind of a bullshit reason to not connect to that trilogy. And I kind of regret it. And I haven't revisited those movies in a long time. But the nostalgia that you feel, Mike, and Matt, you feel towards that trilogy, and millions of other people feel towards that trilogy, I don't have. And so I've had kind of a disconnect with Spider-Man because of that. But I've really liked Tom Holland a lot. I think my favorite Spider-Man is actually Andrew Garfield, but my favorite Peter Parker is Tom Holland, if that makes sense.
Sure.
I just love his awkwardness. I think he's hit that out of the park. It's so much fun. I loved Andrew Garfield's in his movies. I loved his quippiness and his smartassness as Spider-Man. I thought the way he incorporated that into the actual masked character was so fun. But the reason why No Way Home is my favorite favorite of the year is because the way they managed to weave so many things together from the MCU and just not course correct, but just, I guess, solve all of the hangups that I had with Spider-Man personally. It all just kind of melted away with this movie, and I was so blown away by it. I got choked up at this movie, which I was not expecting. And I absolutely adore the way I was able to just reconcile so many things about my connection to this franchise. One thing that jumped out to me that's so obvious, and has been obvious with Spider-Man across all three different franchises that they've done over the last few decades, is the tragedy of Spider-Man and Peter Parker. It's he's constantly losing loved ones and characters, and that's a huge part of who he is as a superhero and as a person. But it just never connected for me, or it never jumped out to me that influences his reason for why he does this, and it influences who he is as a person, because he's always so jokey and quippy and smartassy, and that's what I've always liked about him. But I'm blown away watching this movie by how Peter Parker and Spider-Man deals with tragedy. It's really incredible, and it is a constant force that he deals with in all these movies, and obviously the comic books, which I'm not as familiar with, but it's incredible how he keeps going, and because it's the stuff that happens to him in this movie, and happened to Andrew Garfield and happened to Tobey Maguire. That stuff is heartbreaking and earth-shattering, and should make a person want to quit. But he just keeps going. He keeps cracking jokes, and he keeps slinging webs, and that's one thing that I just learned to, or it's an adoration that I came to when I watched this movie about Spider-Man, and I was really blown away by the movie. And Mike, you're right, it's really hard not to talk about it with spoilers. It's hard to talk about it while avoiding spoilers, but
right.
Suffice it to say, it's just a beautiful movie in so many ways, and it's heartbreaking, it's funny, really funny, it's beautiful, great CGI, like you said. The set pieces were so good, really good acting. I love what they did with the other characters too. I can't remember even his friend's name. Ned, thank you.
Yeah.
Ned.
And Zendaya's MJ had really good character arcs as well. And this movie, was it almost 3 hours?
Yeah, just about.
It was like 240 or something like that. It
Mm-hmm.
felt like an hour to me because
Yeah.
I was so in and just on the edge of my seat the whole time. Just really a beautiful movie. I can't wait to watch it again.
Same here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Also, I don't know if I said this, the second year in a row that Mike and I have had the same number one.
Oh, yeah. What was your guys'
nice.
number one last year?
Invisible Man last year.
Invisible Man.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. My number one last year was I'm Thinking of Ending Things, which after that recording, have not given a second thought to that movie. So,
funny.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's our top 10s, guys,
Yes.
of 2021. That is.
We did it. We made
We
it.
did it. Oh, yes. But before we head out, I do have one other thing. Movies we're looking forward to in 2022. We can be
Ooh.
really quick.
Yeah.
But before that, I do want to lay down like this interesting thought that I had today. It's just weird to me. Like thinking about, like, I often think about, oh, what if I could go back in time and talk to myself, much like in the Celine Sciamma movie Petite Maman. But what if I could go back in time and talk to myself and say something? So if I were to go back to June 28th, 2018, the day that I signed up for AMC A-List, if I could go back in time to that day and say, hey, I know that you're not necessarily reveling in the ashes of MoviePass, but you're excited about this. That's super exciting. I just want to let you know that 2019 is going to be the only year until 2022, God willing, that you have A-List, that anyone has A-List for the entirety of the calendar year. Like, can you think about how weird that would be?
Wow, yeah.
That is weird.
That's
Like,
a good point.
Yeah, we've only had A-List. This is the second year we will have A-List for a full year, and it came out in 2018.
Jeez.
That's a good point.
Nuts.
That is
So,
weird
yeah.
to think about.
Yeah, so just a little anecdote. But Mike, do you want to hit us with your most anticipated movies of 2022 before we head out for the evening?
Yeah, I will be quick. So there are 2 more sleeps until Scream comes
Yes.
out. 5 Cream or Scream 5, whatever you want to call it, or Scream Resurrections. I'm also really, really excited for the Batman. I wasn't
Yes.
initially, not that I had anything against Robert Pattinson. I just don't need more Batman movies in my life. And it turns out I do, because that trailer looks awesome.
Yeah.
The Northman, Robert Eggers is another one of my favorite directors working. I love his eye. The Black Phone,
Yes.
Ethan Hawke, I have said many times, is my favorite actor. And I'm pretty excited for that. Jordan Peele, anything he does, I'm going to check it out. So Nope is pretty exciting. And then as of now, toward the end of the year, the big one, of course, for me is the ending of David Gordon Green's new Halloween trilogy, Halloween Ends, this October.
Nice. Awesome. Tiny, do you have any?
Really just the Batman is up there. They've kind of been showing that trailer lately, and I'm very curious to see what they do with that. And then I just kind of remembered the Avatar sequel is supposed to come out next year.
Oh, yeah. We'll see.
That's that's mostly just curiosity. I'm curious to see the reception on that.
I mean, we'll see if it comes out.
Yeah, we'll see if it comes out. But I'm curious to see how it's received, because it's been way too freaking long, and all the reasons, we've talked about Avatar before and Jim Cameron before. But I'm just kind of curious to see what happens with that movie.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Rapid fire. Scream in a couple of days. Super excited. Weirdly interested in Uncharted.
2 more sleeps.
Yep.
2 more sleeps.
Oh yeah. Weirdly interested in Uncharted. We'll see. The Batman, one of my highest anticipated movies. It looks incredible. I'm really interested in April, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent with Nick Cage and Pedro Pascal. The Northman, like Mike said. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Can't wait. The Black Phone. Joe Hill. Joe Hill short story, great. Thor: Love and Thunder, Nope. Salem's Lot in September. We're going to be doing some stuff for Tower Junkies with that. And then Knives Out 2, which doesn't have a release date, and Halloween Ends, and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse Part 1.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so those are all that. I will be back with a new episode shortly, just geeking out over podcast stats and Patreon stats, kind of a Patreon sizzle reel maybe, recurring co-host top 10s, my honorable mentions. Stay tuned for that in the next episode. But, gentlemen, this is our 9th year in review episode. I love you guys. Thank you so much for putting up with me and everything. And I'm just glad that this is a thing that we've done 9 times.
Yeah. We've done this thing. Yeah.
It's insane.
This is awesome.
Oh, yeah.
So cool.
Yeah. Totally.
And shit,
love you too, man. Love you too, Tiny.
Yeah, love you guys.
Sorry.
You forgot to press record.
We talked over your joke. That was pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I love you guys. And we're looking forward to more podcast in 2022.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. Well, I'm going to play us out. Thank you guys so much for listening. And again, check us out on Letterboxd, @ObsessiveViewer, @ObsessiveTiny, I am Mike White. Links to everything in the show notes. Thank you guys and have a great and safe 2022 at the movies. Yeah. All right. Thank you guys and have a good one. I was trying to time it, but it's not going to be timed. Close enough. All right. Yeah. And now, here's a short clip from our Patreon exclusive RSS feed. To hear the full clip and more exclusive Patreon content, go to patreon.com/obsessiveviewer and become a patron at the minimum rate of $1 per month. Thank you and enjoy. Wow.
I love the trio of movies that this is if Psycho is the grandfather, Halloween is the father, this is the child.
Yeah, I love that. That's so awesome.
Which is the then spawns a million imitators.
Oh, yeah. A million illegitimate children.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and I lost my train of thought just now, but anyway,
I need to see more Gale Weathers costumes for Halloween. The lime green, blazer and miniskirt is iconic.
Oh, absolutely. Oh yeah,
it's a character in the movie. I feel
it's a character, and pizza rescued me. But also, how cool is it that we have a now 5 movie franchise villain, like iconic horror icon that's not supernatural, but is still the same iconography in each movie. I think that's
we're
really
gonna have
cool.
that is awesome, and we're gonna have to talk about that come Scream 22.
Yeah,
I'm so excited for it. Everything I've seen looks so great, but I still keep asking, like, why does it exist? How are they gonna tell us why this movie exists?
This podcast was edited and produced by Matt Hurt and presented by ObsessiveViewer.com. You can find links to all of our shows at ObsessiveViewer.com/podcasts. For exclusive bonus content, including reviews, commentaries, and B-roll episodes, you can subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/ObsessiveViewer. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.